Welcome to the May 20th, 2024 study session of the Livonia City Council. I figured everybody here would like to get the party started, so let's get the party started. Apologize for anyone. I know we went a little over in the regular. Appreciate your patience, and we'll get jumped right into it. If I could have everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Honorable Laura Toy.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting sets the agenda for the 1994th regular meeting, which is a voting meeting and will take place on Monday, June 3rd, where tonight's items will be officially voted on. I'm not showing any council absences, and I am going to jump right to the audience communication for items that are not on the current agenda. If you would like to speak on items not on the agenda, hey. Good evening, Mr. Martin.
Well, good evening, Christopher Martin, the great state of Michigan. And knowing the law department like I do over the years, I'd like to welcome Mr. Fisher. I kind of looked up a few things on him. James Carter Fisher was born August 4th to Deborah and Michael Fisher. Weighed 8 pounds, 2 ounces. Named after the former president, Jimmy Carter Fisher. So I don't know if you have a peanut allergy or if you like him or whatever, but you will always be Jimmy when I see you in court, if I ever have that opportunity again. Okay? But,
This guy, awesome.
you know, welcome aboard, as they say.
Listen, if we don't pick you up as PR, I don't even know why we'd let that go. You got a smile on our city attorney's face, so thank you for that. Anything else from audience comments? Seeing none, I'm going to move back to council. Do we have any announcements? I think we're ready to get right into the agenda. Let's start off with new business, which is item number 1, which is a request to utilize the Greenmead property for the 175th, 176th, and 177th annual Highland Games. This comes to us from the Department of Parks and Recreation and the St. Andrews Society of Detroit for the proposed game days of August 2nd and 3rd, 2024, August 1st and 2nd, 2025, and July 31st through August 1st, 2026. Kathy, it's awesome to have you. Honestly, I got to tell you, and before I hand it off to my colleagues, that the Highland Games, I mean, you were talking 175th, 176th. Thank you so much for picking Livonia. And this year I do promise to wear the kilt the right way. Problem was, I'll tell you just a quick story. I decided, I'm going to get a kilt. I got, part Scottish. So I get out there and I'm doing the whole day. And at the very end, as I'm walking to the parking lot, some guy goes, "Hey, it's on backwards." I go, "Thanks. I wish I would have known that about 2 hours ago, but that's fine." But as in anything you do, it's incredible, and you pick this location, and any way we can support you, please let us know. It's one of the highlights of the city, and thank you for continuing on the tradition in Livonia.
I want you to know that we really appreciate the support that we have from Livonia. We've loved it. In the letter I wrote, I said I think it was the 24th year that we've been here. Actually, this is our 28th year in Livonia. This is our 175th, as Brandon said. We are the oldest Highland Games in North America. We are an all-volunteer organization, and we have a wonderful time out at Greenmead, and we hope that you will all come.
That's awesome.
Any questions or anything about?
Yeah, we probably definitely. One thing I got to tell you, and you guys, you're going to get a pump out of this. So June 7th, we're heading to Edinburgh to watch Taylor Swift.
Oh, well,
Don't judge, we're Swifties.
Whoa.
I know. We got
Okay.
we got all of the Explorer passes and everything. So
And he's going to wear his kilt.
Yeah.
hopefully the right way. Listen,
Wear it to the games, and if you come early, the heavy athletics has the amateurs in the morning. So if you want to come and throw the caber, it's only 125 pounds.
Councilman Morgan and Donovic they're gonna do a caber toss.
That would be good for all of
I
you.
do too.
Okay. All right. If you have any questions, any comments?
I'm going to go to Councilmember Jolly and then.
I just want to offer an approving for the consent. I got an opportunity to escort this guy and make sure he wasn't too far out of line last year. But what I said to the audience on the stage there is, you've really made this event part of Livonia's culture, and it's sharing your Scottish culture, but it's become so much more for us here in Livonia that we expect it every year. And my kids love it. His daughter loves it, and so many kids do, and it really exposes them to something that they would not normally have.
We put about 1,000 kids through the Wee Barons area, and it's all free, and they learn. It's a learning experience as well as having a good time, and kids love it and parents love it. So, yeah, come out. Okay, thank you, Jim. Okay.
Vice President?
Thank you. I was actually going to offer a motion as well, but I just wanted to say tag goes in the back, pin goes in the front, Mr. McCullough. And don't let the Tashnik last names fool you. These are my people, too, and it's a great event every year, and I'm looking forward to it. So.
Okay, well, good. I hope we'll see you, too. Hope we'll see all of you. Thank you.
Hey, so
and all of you.
he wears a skirt, but I want to get one of those shoes with the spike in front of it from the hammer throw.
Oh, yes.
So I can kick him.
Listen, I'm going to wear my hockey jersey with that, and
We do
that's
have
challenge
Livonia
accepted.
police on staff, but we really don't want to have any incidents.
Listen,
And the Livonia firefighters are at our tug of war.
I know.
So
We gotta beat
that's
those
a big
Windsor
thing.
boys.
Yes.
I got to tell you, if you haven't been to this event, mark it down on the calendars. It's an incredible time,
Always the first Saturday in in
Yep.
August.
and we'll make sure we publicize it, but this is an incredible
Thank you.
person that
Thank
helps
you very
out.
much. Thanks for all your
It's great to
support.
see you. We'll see you in a few
Thank
months.
you.
All right, any comments from the audience in regards to our Highland Games item? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to item number 2, which is a block party and street barricade request. This comes to us from Laura, how do I say your name? Because I don't want to gut it. Lauren Feigl. I'm just going to do that from now on. That's not my strong suit. To be held Sunday, June 30th, 2024, from noon until 10 p.m. along 5 Mile Service Road from 36996 to 36916 5 Mile Road. No rain date requested.
Nope.
The floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So I ended my last meeting with, if it's a success, I'll be back. So it still rained, but I'm back. So last year I brought it forward. It was also my husband's first year as the head coach at Churchill football. Yeah, and so the purpose was to kind of bring everybody together, families, to meet at our house, have this block party, and then also introduce and welcome ourselves to the rest of our neighbors on our block. So we're a small strip right there after like the CVS strip of Sheesh. There's about 10 houses there. So we had a great time. We blocked it off from the 5 Mile to the Fitzgerald. We don't block any main roads, and had a great time. Yeah.
It's awesome.
And so we can also, it's also the night of the spree. So the fireworks, so we can see them right from our boulevard.
Perfect.
And so it also serves dual purpose. We can stop the fast guys trying to cut through our little service drive, while also watching the fireworks.
That's awesome. Council, I'm going to give it to Vice President.
Sure, thank you. I'd be happy to offer an approving a consent. I actually work with Coach Feigl, and I know he probably could throw a good party, so I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Well, you've been approving on consent. Is there anything further from council? Seeing none, anything from the audience? All right, so you're an approving on consent, which means your matter is pretty much all but sure to pass. If you'd like to
Okay.
join us on June 3rd, you may, but if not,
Okay.
enjoy the party.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to go to item number 3, which is a block party request. This comes to us from Nicholas Scott to be held on Friday, July 5th from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Ohio Street between Maryland and California with no rain date requested. Mr. Scott.
Hi, how are you?
Good evening.
Our first time doing it was last year. We had a blast. Just like her, it rained, and the kids did not care. They played basketball in the street, and we still had our water slides up. Finally dried out for us, and we still had a good time.
That's awesome. I'm happy to see it happen again. I got Councilman Donovic, then I'll go to you.
Sure. I'd like to defer to my senior member.
Oh,
Get a discount.
'Cause he's
No,
right.
that's
his
so
shirt.
kind
It's
of
his
you,
shirt.
you young man. You. No, I was just going to offer an approving. I'm sure Rob was too, and only because you have your University of
Go
Michigan
Blue.
T-shirt on.
Go blue.
Go blue. Thank you.
Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I live on California Street, and down the block I see when we go on walks. So maybe we can extend it and go a little L this year.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Sounds like a party in the State Streets over there.
Yeah, come. I told you come last year.
We were out of town this year. I'm gonna be there.
There we go.
All right, come on, we'll be there. Yes,
Anything
you
further
can't
from
miss it.
council? Seeing none, anything from the audience? You got an approving on consent?
All right.
Enjoy the event.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
You too.
All right, we're going to go to item number 4, which is a block party from Carol Dobos to be held on Saturday, August 24th, 2024, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Cranston Street between Scone and Perth Streets, with a rain date of Sunday, August 25th. Good evening.
Good evening.
You want to just tell us a little about this event?
I've lived on Cranston Street for 34 years, and we used to have a block party years ago, and it just kind of died out, and new families came in, and a year ago, I decided it was time to do it again. I said I would do it once I retired. I'm a retired teacher, and last year was the first year that we closed the street, and the kids all came out that I didn't even know lived on the street. A lot of them are COVID kids now, so we just have a good group and potlucked and had a good visit.
That's awesome. Council.
Oh.
Councilman Morgan.
Yes, I'll be happy to offer an approving on the regular, or I'm sorry, on the consent.
You want to speak?
Nope, no.
All right, so we do have an approving on consent. Again, these are great to see these. Sorry you had to wait so long to get here, but no, this is neighborhood. This is what makes Livonia special. So appreciate it. I hope we see you back every year. Continue it on. But thanks for doing this. Anything from the audience regarding this block party? Seeing none? You have an approving on consent? Enjoy. All right, we're going to move on to item number 5, which is a request to waive the driveway ordinance requirement. The petitioner is Matthew Rowe. Their home on 36804 Sunnydale Street to exceed the 25-foot ordinance and allow widening of their driveway to 30 feet. Who's speaking on this one? Mr. Zelinsik?
Sure, I'll take the lead if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. So obviously, first of all, we appreciate the homeowner coming to us before any action take place. Usually when these are coming before City Council, the few that have been here in 15 years is because people didn't pull a permit and actually went over and above the ordinance that's 25 feet. So first of all, I want to applaud the homeowner for taking the time to do due diligence and getting on City Council to be heard about this issue. So at his driveway, he has at the curb a length of 21 foot 6 inches, which then tapers up to the private driveway at 20 feet. The ordinance allows 25 feet for property owners to expand their driveway if they want to widen it. Obviously, he wants to widen the north, or widen a portion to the west, a portion to the east. After reviewing the location, obviously he has a portion to the west that looks like they've killed some grass and they want to continue on and expand the driveway to have more vehicle space. So for our point of view for this issue, we would recommend that if he wants to widen the driveway, keep it at 25 feet. However, make the portion to the north, he's allowed to go at an angle and continue up and put as much as he would probably prefer for the expansion to the west, to the private drive. But again, keep a couple feet off the property owner's line so that way you don't adversely impact the neighbor with the drainage. But again, as you know, if we have a water main break, utilities, we have 38,000 homes. If everyone starts putting a runway out there for a driveway, it gets expensive where we have to go back and replace it in the future. Lucky he's doing the proactive thing. He's trying to go ahead of the construction that's starting on Sunnydale, the reconstruction there from Levan all the way to Myrna. So with that, again, it's at your discretion. I just want to give you the background and appreciate your time. And again, appreciate the homeowner doing his due diligence. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming out. I'm going to go to council first, and if they've got questions, they'll direct them. Mr. Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Zelinsik, since this is an approach, it's before the this is an approach and it's before the sidewalk, this would have to be 6 inches in depth?
You're correct. The approach has to be 6 inches along with the sidewalk. And if it was widened, each additional adjacent sidewalk flag would be 6 inches thick also. So again, just to reiterate, our recommendation would allow him to go the additional 3.5 feet to make it 25 feet. And then if he wants to go above the driveway approach, he's more than welcome to expand on the west side or however he may feel, whatever. It looks like that's the portion where he wants to provide additional parking.
Does the city require the resident, if they want to widen their approach, to remove the existing portion of the approach, or does that stay and they just add to?
I would say the existing sidewalk would stay approach. They can, on the private side, they don't need a permit. On the public side, in the right of way, they have to get a permit and meet our standards, which is a standard detail we have to show the proper thickness and requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Lorenzo. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, Councilman John?
So, Mr. Zelinski, Sunnydale is getting
Reconstructed.
yeah. So it would be normal that all the aprons are going to be replaced as well, correct? Or is that not the case in this situation?
On a reconstruction street, more than likely, a lot of them are getting reconstructed. But again, if you want to widen it, you still have to come pull a permit. The homeowner would have to come pull a permit to widen the driveway, and they work out the agreement with the contractor. Otherwise, we'll put it back to where it was. So whether it's concrete or asphalt.
Okay. How's it going? So why 30 feet? So like 25 would be the normal, and there's some houses here in the packet that are circled as being wider.
Well, I was told when I came to the meeting about a month ago that they told us they were going to do our street, that the new aprons are going to be kind of more wide at the street and narrow at the top. So I was told by the hard rock concrete contractor that normally the code would be 25 at the street and 21 would be at your sidewalk. So currently my driveway is 20 feet wide and I want to bring it to 30 feet, so I would need, if it's 2 feet on each side of at the bottom, it would be 34 at the road. I showed in the thing that there are quite a few other homes in my neighborhood that have the wider driveways, and I was told at the meeting that their driveways, because they were already that way, they're going to be that way going forward, and a lot of them were piecemealed over the years. We were going to have our driveway done before we found out a month ago that this went into effect, so I didn't realize you needed to have permission for that. I knew the driveway on our side didn't matter, but on the bottom part, so that's why I'm coming here to the council. I was told I couldn't go more than the 25. I just want to widen it. I have one of the bigger houses on the street. It's a 5-bedroom. I have a large family. You can see in the picture, kids' cars on the road, and there'll be more probably. And then 2 doors down, there's the William Street that backs to the park. So a lot of times people come and go to soccer there. They're parking in the street. And on snow days, when I have to move the vehicles out of the road for the snow equipment to get through, it'd be nice to get them out of the way. And it would neaten it up, I think, and look nicer. Instead of having, like right now, I have the gravel to the back for our pop-up camper. I could make that cement. And I did, the way this is laid out, I have over a 3-foot distance between the driveway and the neighbor's property next to me, allowing room for the snow to be pushed to, when I clean the snow off the driveway. So I won't be encroaching on them. The neighbor, like 10 doors down that I have in the picture there, their 30-foot driveway actually touches the neighbor's. I'm moving it this way so I wouldn't be interfering with the neighbor at all, and it would actually, make it look nicer. So that's why I'm asking the council to allow us to improve the property.
So I drive that way every single day taking my daughter to Holmes, right? Is there somebody who has a 30-foot driveway?
Yes,
Okay.
there's multiples.
And you've measured them out?
Can show
That's what I was
you.
gonna
Yes,
ask,
I
with
went
these
with my
circles?
son. We
Okay.
measured those measurements are at the sidewalk. I'm not sure our prior apron only has like about a half a foot on each side, but I was told that it's going to be wider, the new one, correct?
Just to clarify, we had a night meeting with the residents to go over the road construction of different streets. What we say is we replace it in kind. Typically they would mark the sidewalk where the ends of the apron were at, as he stated, it's 21 foot 6 inches. So we just mark a line where the end of the concrete driveway at this curb would be at, and we actually put a taper there, a curb drop, instead of having a roll curb. So they get a better, smoother transition into the driveway. At the top, we would match 20 feet. The road program is for the roads, to fix roads, not to do driveway approaches. So there's no way we're going to expand a driveway. And then the homeowner would have to come pull a permit if they want to widen the driveway. They can do it on their own at any point in time, or they can work with the contractor if they want to widen it to the maximum 25 feet. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to go out and check every driveway 30 feet. If we catch them, then we get with ordinance, so we try to make sure it's stopped with the law department. We've had people come, actually not pull a permit, and then do the driveways on weekends, whatever, that we can't catch. We had 38,000 homes. It's hard to police everything. So again, some areas may have been done, back in the day, whatever, but if we catch it, we see it, especially on new homes or other people that are out there without getting a permit. We try to curb that issue. But at the end of the day, he has 21'6" at the bottom. He's allowed to widen it to 3.5 feet unless you guys say otherwise. And then he's more than welcome to widen it on the private property. He doesn't need a permit, but he can't adversely affect his neighbor with the drainage, and he's widening it. He said it's about 3 foot past just near his property line, which sounds reasonable. And then he can go behind his fence on the side of his existing house to have more parking space as needed with the large family itself. So we're just trying to, again, it's hard to police everything, but obviously found some locations that are 30 foot or larger, but if city council directs us, we'd be happy to put those back to 25 feet, back to the ordinance, whatever. I'd be happy to do that too, so.
So at this time, I'm going to offer an approving for the regular. I want to come out and just understand it a little bit better, but I'll put it, and I'm going to be driving by it tomorrow morning anyway, so I might just take a look real quick.
The reason I want the bottom wider, I know you keep saying the top, I would be driving over the grass in order to move the 3 vehicles. If I have 3 parked there, you'd have to, a kid would bang into another car trying to do that
They
maneuvering.
probably will anyways, right?
I'm
So-
not asking for anything that's out of question. Like I said, there's one house that's 33 feet that's brand new. They just did it last year, so
Yeah.
they put it there, so.
Yeah. I offered an approving for the regular meeting. I just want to
Okay.
take a look at it. I think part of the problem is too, we have to look at these things and they're not just one-offs.
Yeah.
So there's theoretically, in theory, right, you're seeking this, 5 other people could seek it on the street as well, and it's like the totality of the circumstances. I offered an approving
Yes.
for the regular. So that just means that we just want to take a quick look and kind of go from there.
One note I wanted to make, they had it scheduled for the beginning of July, and just this week, we got an announcement that it's gonna happen tomorrow. So in 2 weeks, this will be all complete. I was told our side of the street, so I wanted to do a due diligence. That's why as soon as he had the meeting, I ran over to find out what to do, because I think it's a waste of money then if I have to have you cut out the curb after this if we figure it out. So I wanted to do it while it's happening, so it's gonna be cleaner, you know what I'm saying?
Todd, when's construction going to start?
From Williams heading west they're starting removals tomorrow on the north side of the street, and then it'll continue on through probably the next 4 to 6 weeks just for that section from Williams heading west. Then they'll stay stage 2, 3, and 4, which is on the other side of Williams. So again, we'll work with the homeowner, till June 3rd is the next regular meeting to make sure that this gentleman, whether it's 25 feet or we work out an issue that if you continue to widen it to 30 feet, then we'll make amends, whatever. But again, I'm just trying to, again, follow the protocol itself. But he can put more drive approach on the west side. Unfortunately, one car may have to move to back the other one out to do that, but that's.
Thank you. So I'll make my approving for the consent agenda, and given the nature of the timing, I'll ask the administration to provide a non-veto letter as well, if we vote for that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bazinski?
I was just curious if you talked to your neighbor about it, and if they're supportive, the neighbor to.
They didn't make any comment regardless of it. Just that they wanted space in between, which I've put on the map. I don't know if they've showed you guys this. I made it.
Yeah, no, we haven't.
Yeah, to show.
Can you pass that down?
You're basically, when you widen the driveway too, then you take away the parking space for other neighbors, as Councilwoman Brzezinski had mentioned. So that's also another thing to take a look at, just approving it. Then you have to reduce the parking for the other neighbor who may already park there or have a bigger vehicle, so.
Councilman Morgan?
Yeah, Mr. Zelinski, I had a question regarding the apron there. Does that always have to be pitched like that, or can you square it off so it's just a square?
They can have an angle, they can go square. Again, each one's different. Most people watch to line up their driveways, but again, just want to exceed 25 feet at the curb itself.
Okay, so if it was 25 at the curb and 25 at the sidewalk, that's acceptable?
No problem, right? He can widen it 3.5 feet at the bottom, and he'd widen another 5 feet at the top.
Okay.
But then he also had to do the 6-inch sidewalk to accommodate the traffic. Then we'll drive over that, because right now it's 4 inches of
I'm
crack.
full willing to pay the city whatever it costs to put the approach in. I'll pay for it, and if you need to remove it for some reason for some other time in the future, I'm a resident of Livonia for 50 years. My family lives in Livonia. I grew up in Livonia. I'll repair it. I'll replace it. We're not going to be going for a long time, so.
Yeah, I just wanted clarification for that for future reference,
Yes.
but that's fine, thank you.
Councilwoman Toy?
Where'd you go to high school?
Livonia Stevenson.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Well, right now, we do have an approving on the consent agenda. Do I have
Maybe I'll
anything
offer it
further
tonight,
from council? Seeing none? I'm going to go to the audience. Does the audience have any comments or communications on this item? Seeing none? You have an approving on consent.
So what does that mean
So
when
what
they're
that
here
means-
tomorrow and doing it? I just want to know.
Good.
Sir,
So do I have to tell somebody to move
could that
the?
go on the regular, please? I'm a little concerned. Could we have that on the regular rather than consent?
We could, yes.
Okay. I don't mean to be disrespectful to my very
So
learned
this is what you
colleague,
got.
but
So you have an approving on the regular now.
What does that mean? I'm
So
sorry.
on June 3rd,
We get to vote.
we will have a formal vote on it. You need 4 votes. The tough part is you won't know until June 3rd when that vote takes place. So there's a little bit of a gamble. And
So they'll currently just make it the way it is right now?
I do, Mr. Zelinski?
I will work with the contractor to make sure if he goes 30 feet, you'll be all set, sir. Okay, we'll work with you. We want to make sure that.
But you'll be done before that date, I was told.
I can gap this, I can gap that, sir.
So what we've got
Okay,
here.
okay, we can work something.
So
Okay.
our Mr. Zelinski sounds like he's going to buy us a little bit of time to get to that June 3rd.
That's fine. My wife talked to the guy and he said, yeah, we'll be done in 2 weeks. So I'm like, uh-oh, we
You
better
got
hurry.
an approving on regular, be back here on the 3rd or have someone, because that's where the vote is. We might have some more questions. I appreciate you coming out. I understand. It's,
Okay,
thank you for all the information that you've given. You've given us a lot to go work off of.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zelinski, as well. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to item number 6, was a request to waive the sidewalk requirement. This comes from Brittany and Nicholas Onifer for a new constructed home at 15940 Ingram. Good evening.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about this, name and address for the record, and tell us a little bit about what you want to
Brittany,
do.
15940 Ingram. We just built a new house, and there's no sidewalks on our street, so we're not obviously putting one in. So I had to fill the form out.
I appreciate you filling the form out and spending your Monday night with us. Council, have you had a chance? Do we have enough to, Mr. Donovic?
Thanks, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I was reading over this. I thought the letter was a little odd by the petitioner saying they're not going to do something. City Council holds that authority if we're going to waive that or not. But I did look at this, Mr. Zelinski, and there is no sidewalks on that side of Ingram Street, correct?
Yes, my recommendation is not to put sidewalks in, as there's no sidewalks there. Thank you.
And was there any sidewalks on the other side of the road? I can't remember.
No, it's free and clear. It's ditches, I believe, and again, a lot of mowing of grass, whatever. So
Yeah, sure.
it'd be difficult, but again, you guys have the final say.
I'd like to offer an approving for the regular, please.
All right, so you have an approving on the regular. That would be voted on June 3rd.
Okay.
And once that's complete, you'll have your decision at
Okay.
that point. But thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Yep, no
And
problem.
we'll see you in a couple
So
of
do
weeks.
I don't need to be here June 3rd, or
I
do
would
need to be-
recommend, just
Oh,
because
okay.
it is a vote.
Okay.
So
And what
I
time
would-
is that at?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Okay.
So look on if you go to the city's website, you'll see the agenda will be posted, and you'll see what number you're at. But that one will be on the regular. That starts at 7 p.m.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any comments from the audience in that item?
I had a house on Ingram and it had sidewalks.
Not
So
this north.
where is this at?
There's 2 different Ingrams.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
because I was just curious
It goes like through. over
why
the-
there isn't sidewalks. I mean, I don't know.
It's the sidewalk list. Ingram.
you and the Bentley.
He did go.
Just don't pay
Councilwoman
attention
Toy
to
said
him.
that he went to Bentley, so that
Yeah,
probably.
don't pay attention to him. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to item number 7, which is the reappointment of Ian Wislow to the Livonia Planning Commission. This comes to us from the Office of the Mayor for a 3-year term, which will expire on June 9th, 2027. Do we have?
Approving.
Do you just want to? I mean,
It's Mr. Wilshaw. He's
you
been our-
got him here now.
I've got him, yeah. So Ian has been the chair of the Planning Commission for, I'm not even sure how long, former member of the Traffic Commission, does a wonderful job with the Planning Commission, and he has been requested to serve another 3-year term.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Toy.
I've known Mr. Wilshaw for a long time, his family, his mother, his dad, his brother. They're just super people, Livonia to the core. And, you know, being president of the Planning Commission, he still has his hair. So that's impressive in itself. So I would resoundingly say for a 3-year term, it's Ian Wilshaw.
Is that on consent?
If Charlie doesn't object, yeah.
I mean, it was a low blow with the hair comment.
We're glad to have you, Ian.
I'm not going to say anything.
Best
Do you have any
Smart man.
more? No, we appreciate everything you do. Honestly, you've been in that role and you've been an asset to the city.
Well, thank you. It's an honor for the mayor to ask for my reappointment and send it to you guys. It's certainly been an honor to serve the community through this role on the Planning Commission, and I appreciate your support in my reappointment.
Thanks for hanging out with us on this late evening. We do have AC, so
I'm
that's a
glad to
plus.
see that it's not just planning commissions that go late.
No, we have our moments.
Good one.
Anything further? Anything from the audience? All right, you got an improvement on consent. Thanks
you.
for hanging out.
Good evening.
We're going to move on to item number 8, which is reappointment of Wafa Dinero to the Livonia Planning Commission. This comes to us from the Office of the Mayor for a 3-year term, which will expire on June 9th, 2027. Mr. Termina?
This is Wafa's, I think, first reappointment, and she is former employee of Wayne County. In fact, helped put the deal together for the senior center, and now is the executive director of New Economy Initiative, a very influential nonprofit in the city of Detroit.
Awesome. Approving.
Councilman Jolly.
WAF is a great addition to any board we can have her on in the city, and I think we try to twist her arm to do more than she is doing.
Just the one for now.
But yeah. So, no, she's very professionally accomplished, and she's active in the community as well. It's a good voice for representation in any board in the city. So, thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's been great. I love the Planning Commission. I love looking at the future of what our city is going to look like and being a part of that. So I appreciate all of your support.
You stay pretty busy, too.
A little bit.
A little bit. Well, thanks for hanging out on Monday night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else from council?
Thanks for the money.
Anytime.
For the senior center project.
For the
not
senior
Laura.
center project.
Listen, I was uncomfortable
Not
for a
me.
moment.
Yeah, no, I'm broke, so don't worry. Yeah.
All right.
Is that going on the record?
Yeah, you can go on
It's
the record. He's my attorney, so we're fine. No.
City Attorney Fisher's enjoying himself right now. He's trying to figure out what he signed up for.
What he got, yeah.
We're going much
Well,
too
you've been
late.
approving on consent.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything. We'll hopefully see you back here in 3 years to give you another 3-year term.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, number 9 is the reappointment of Susan Harvey to the Plymouth Road Development Authority. This comes to us from the Office of Mayor for a 3-year term, which will expire on May 16th, 2027. I will say that I talked to Susan. She had to leave out. She didn't expect the meeting to go that long, and I don't blame her. And if council, I'll let council do that, but I wanted to at least give the asterisks on it. Mr. Termina, do you want to? Oh, actually, I'm just going to go to council. Susan's not here. Mr. Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mrs. Harvey is an accomplished individual with a lot of properties along Plymouth Road. I will say that it makes sense to have Susan Harvey as probably one of the largest property owners along Plymouth Road. It makes sense to have someone like her with her input and experience on the PRDA. If you drive down Plymouth Road, you'll notice a lot of buildings are well manicured and taken care of because of what Ashley Capital and their family does for that corridor. So happy to see her on the PRDA, and I'd like to offer an approving for consent. There's no objection from my colleagues.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Anything further from the audience? Anything from council? See none? We have an approving on consent. We're going to move on to item number 10, which is an appointment of Rhett Grovenfeld to the Plymouth Road Development Authority Office. This comes to us from the Office of the Mayor to complete an unexpired term set to expire on May 16, 2025. How do you do that? You are the man of all hats here.
That's right. Good evening.
Mr. President.
I'm going to go.
Oh,
to
I'm
Vice
sorry.
President.
Go ahead. Sure.
Go ahead, Mr.
You got a
President.
3-minute speech. We'll start
Yeah.
the clock
I'll
now.
keep it short. I figured since I was here, I'd at least come up and say hello. Happy to have the opportunity to serve on the board if the council approves our businesses had been headquartered in Livonia since its existence and on the Plymouth Road corridor for about the last 20 years that I've worked with OHM Advisors. Grew up in the city of Livonia, product of Livonia schools, and happy to continue to serve the community.
So, Mr. Chair.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say that Mr. Gronevelt's being put up to replace John Hiltz. I don't know if anyone could ever replace John Hiltz, but those are some big shoes to fill, but I can't think of anyone who would be better suited to do that. So I'd like to offer an approving on consent for Mr. Gronevelt to join the PRDA.
Perfect.
Mr. President,
Councilman Toy?
if I may, it's kind of cool because I've sat here a long time off and on, and it's nice to see people's children coming now before us. I knew your dad, and what a great man. He did great things for this community. He served under McNamara, and, you guys are following in great people's footsteps, and it's so neat to see this happen. And I got about 1.5 years left here, so it's nice to be able to recognize the people stepping up to do these kinds of jobs here. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Anything else from council? Anything from the audience? We got you for on consent for a few more years. Appreciate it, wearing all these hats and helping the community.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, Mr. President, I'm going to be stepping away for item number 11 due to the potential appearance of a professional conflict, although none exists. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to be moving on to item number 11, which is a waiver petition. This comes to us from the Planning Commission. This is petition 2024-02-02-04, submitted by the Basilica of St. Mary, requesting waiver use approval to construct and operate a Montessori school and a family/youth center at 18100 Merriman Road. We do have new data, which is revised site plans. Mr. Termina.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this is a request to construct and operate a Montessori school and family youth center at the Basilica of St. Mary's. St. Mary's owns roughly 21 acres of property on the east side of Merriman Road between 6 and 7 mile roads. The property, as it exists today, is divided into 3 zoning classifications. You have RUF and N2, the residential classifications on the front portion of the property. And then the rear part is zoned PL. The city is in the process of rezoning approximately 3 acres of that public land in order to accommodate the proposed Montessori and family youth center. Council gave first reading to that rezoning on January 17th. So the proposed 1-story, 33,000 square foot building is positioned directly east of the cultural center and south of the Basilica. So to familiarize everyone with the map that is on the screen, on the left-hand side is Merriman Road. The Basilica is shown here at the top part of the drawing. Cultural center, the existing cultural center that is adjacent to Merriman Road on the bottom part, and then the proposed new building is located here again, directly to the east of the existing cultural center. So the building would have a flat roof. It has a maximum height of 35 feet as measured at the gymnasium. It would contain 7 classrooms, 3 multi-purpose rooms, a kitchen, multiple offices, and again, the gymnasium. And you can see on this illustration of the floor plan that the gymnasium really occupies the largest part of the building. That's about 10,000 square feet approximately. It does have an elevated stage as well as bleachers, as well as adjoining men's and women's locker rooms. The building itself would be constructed entirely of masonry. This is a rendering that shows the building would be a combination of CMU and alternating brick veneer. The plan shows a total of 166 parking spaces, but since the building is located on a portion of what is currently parking, there would really only be a net increase of about 35 parking spaces. Looking back here at the site plan, stormwater detention, a critical component to any new development these days, that would be facilitated underground beneath the parking lot behind the building. The landscaping, there was a fully detailed landscape plan that was presented to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission requested additional evergreen trees along the west and south sides of the project, and the plans have been revised to show those additional trees. Lastly, the photometric details are provided. This is the lighting plan. They've kept all of the light poles. The pole-mounted structures are all 20 feet or less. We also have limits on the amount of illumination. That's all being kept under 1-foot candle, which is the maximum standard or overall average. Planning Commission is recommending approval of the plans as submitted. Again, the only change being the additional landscaping that they've provided for on the revised site plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. I'm going to go to council and then Commissioner standing by. Thank you. Council, do we have any questions? Mr. Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. So, Mr. Tormey, you mentioned that there was because my main concern to begin with was the stormwater, and their plans were submitted. I know it's initial. They probably haven't completed all their engineering plans, or maybe they have already, but it sounds like they're adding an awful lot of underground storm detention systems.
Yeah, so you'll look on this rendering, this rendered site plan, and you'll see this area back here with all these lines. What those are buried pipes that will detain the storm water before it gets released into an existing storm outlet that feeds north into the Tarabusi Creek.
And Mr. Tormey, if you look at the existing building envelope, if you look at it in its existing situation right now where there's the parking lot ends just about where the garage in that top right, the existing building, the top right corner is. They're going to build the building pretty much in the existing parking lot, but they're going to expand that current grass maybe, 40 feet south, and then maybe 10 feet or so to the east. So they're pretty much using the existing building envelope, the impervious surfaces, as opposed to adding a building 100 feet away in the middle of a grassy field, correct?
Yeah, so I think if I understood you correctly, what you're asking is how much of the area currently is developed. And this, I think, existing aerial photograph illustrates that well. This is the existing parking lot. That building sits roughly in this location here. So the new Montessori school would sit here, half of which is currently parking, the other half is this existing grassy area, and then the parking and stormwater detention system that I just pointed to a minute ago is located here. So this would be the limits of any construction, which, as you indicated, is just beyond the existing storage building.
And this plan doesn't indicate any building further north, where I know there are some protected areas of wetland. They're not expanding the parking lot at all to the north.
No, the closest, well, you can see where that existing building is here. So the limits of any new construction would be just south and east of that storage building.
Yeah. And is there any existing underground storm detention? I know this was built prior to the Wayne County stormwater guidelines. Do we know that, or is that kind of a tough question to answer on the spot?
I do not believe there's any existing detention facilities on the site currently, but I don't know that for
And I asked
certain.
the question for the audience. Some years ago, there was new ordinances enacted by the county, state, and locals that when new development happens, you have to add a stormwater detention, whether that be above ground in a traditional pond, or whether it be underground, which is more expensive. And I'm happy to see that they're adding underground detention. As some of my colleagues have expressed in the past, some of these ponds, these detention ponds, can kind of be a nuisance, really, but you got to work with what you got. So I'm happy to see that they're proposing underground detention, which is a lot more expensive, but I think it really will fix a lot of issues that are currently existing on the property, and seeing as that they're not adding much impervious surface, especially to the north, which I was worried about impacting that wetlands, and they're not impacting the wetlands at all. That's good to see. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Councilwoman Budzinski.
Thanks for being here. I just wanted to learn more about the added green space from the original design. Is that to the south and east that it's going to be placed, and how tall are the greenery that you're looking to plant?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the question, Councilwoman Budzinski. It's a great question. So if you look at the building there, and you see the lines that Mr. Tormina had pointed out that are to the east that indicate where the stormwater would be. Just to the east of that, then. So the east of the limits of construction that Mr. Termina had indicated would be where the added greenery would be. And that resulted from citizen comment at the Planning Commission level where they'd indicated a potential problem with vehicles in the parking lot, say maybe during the nighttime or something like that, turning around, and the headlights beaming into the nearest residential property to the east, which is about 800 feet away, I think. But they'd indicated a potential issue with light pollution there. And so my client had agreed to additional landscaping essentially in order to shield the lights from the vehicles turning around or something like that from the residences there.
So will it be like layered bushes? Is it kind of like a berm of sorts, or?
Evergreen trees is what was indicated.
This plan
Sorry,
shows
the
those new
photo
trees.
doesn't. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councilwoman Toy, and then I'll jump back to Councilman Donovan.
Thank you. If I may go to the petitioner, sir, didn't the state come in and look at the water situation as well, right? One of these meetings when we were doing something or other on the property, I know there was some grave concern about that, and I think we resolved that with the state, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, that's correct. So we had a pre-application meeting with Eagle where they came out and actually issued a written determination, binding written determination that a permit would not be required for this due to any wetland situation.
Okay. And then will there be a play area for the school? And I was going to ask you, what ages is Montessori?
Yes, I'll let somebody from the school answer that question,
that'd
but
be
yes,
great.
there is area on the plans that's designated as sort of a play area for the children.
I just want to make sure.
My name is Ghassan Abdenour from JV and Associates Architect. Actually, the green area just next to the building, that's the playground.
That's a playground?
And that would be required by the state to have that. So
Right.
it's a requirement.
I knew that. I just wondered. Do you know what age group we're talking about, though? Can you help me out?
The age group is 1 to 6.
1 to 6. Oh, perfect. And you find a need for this, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Is it through your congregation or however you describe your parishioners? Is it through them? Is it outside people?
It's not limited to the prisoners. It's for outsiders as well.
So you get people from all over. I know, we have Jackson Center and several other places, and they're on overload from what I understand. And I don't want to misspeak, but there's a real need out there for this kind of thing, is what I'm hearing, as far as young children being educated and parents have, 2 incomes and things like that. So can you describe any of that to me?
Yeah, well, basically, we have a waiting list right now.
Oh,
we
you do?
have run out of
Wow.
space, and which is the reason why we decided to build a bigger school to accommodate the need that exists in the community.
And this was, I don't date back to when you put the initial cultural center up. Back then, I think I was around when we put the Basilica on. I wasn't a voting member then, I think it was up in Lansing, but help me out. Was this always a plan that we were going to perhaps do a school on that site if you could purchase a property that was once Bryant Junior High School, if I'm correct?
It kind of materialized over time. It wasn't something that we thought about back when the cultural center was built, but it's something that Father George and the community have thought about for a long time. And it was started about 7 years ago and has grown like crazy. And so we have a lot of good comments from the parents, from the students, and from the community on that.
I see, okay. Alrighty, so you have a waiting list, and we're not talking about a pond, as my colleague Rob over here talked about. That would be, it's all underground.
It's all underground
Okay,
retention,
that's great,
absolutely.
with young children and things like that. Mr. Chair, I'm going to offer an approving right from the get-go. I know that we've been through this over and over on a lot of this. I know there was strong suspicion by different people and the neighbors, and I respect that, but yet I think the need is there. I think that, they have gone through the hoops. From what I understand, they have the money to build, and, I think it's a welcome addition to our system and to our schools that can't provide that same kind of service. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you okay if I place that on regular?
Yes, I am. Yes,
All right.
regular, yeah.
Councilman Donovan.
President, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Tormina, just to clarify, we are not rezoning the land, and even though the rezoning's already taken place, we are not, this does not affect the land to the east, right? There's essentially an imaginary line that's been created.
Well, that zoning line is right here. This is, would be the limit of the rezoning that you would complete just prior to voting on this waiver petition. So you still have to provide second reading and a roll call vote as it relates to the zoning. Assuming that's completed, then you would vote on the waiver and the here. But that would not, to answer your question, it would not affect the rear portion of the property. That would remain PL.
Great, and I know there's been some discussion about the height of the building. Do you know off the top of your head the existing height of that existing building to the west?
The cultural center?
Cultural center.
I'm gonna just guess it's 24 feet maximum.
I couldn't give you any better answer than your guess.
He's got a good eye for this.
I think it was 25 feet, but we can split the difference.
But, and I bring that up just because I think there's a lot of similarities there. I know this is about 35 feet at its highest point over the gymnasium, and then it kind of tapers down a little bit. But I do like that the buildings, the exterior facades are all similar. We're not using some different unique exterior facade, which kind of plays into the commonality here of one nice development, one nice project.
This drawing here is the main,
Yeah.
the recent.
Yep, and how it kind of tapers back down. So I think when you're looking at it from that eyesight perspective, I think it all looks very harmonious with the project. And then I know my colleague, Councilman Bazinski, asked about the shrubs to the east, but you are adding shrubs to the south as well to buffer those homes to the south.
Absolutely. That
Great.
was one of the comments during the planning commission. And actually, as you see the building, actually the gym area, it's closer to the cultural center. So closer to the neighbors, it's actually, you go back to maybe 24 feet or 22 feet. So only the gym area is the high part. So that's why we pushed it, made it closer to the cultural center. And the building itself is almost 1,200 feet away from any residence. So, like Mark said, we're stopping the rezoning in that point, and we're not planning to do anything beside after the parking.
Yeah.
And the civil part about it, the underground detention that we're putting, actually is going to help the whole site drastically, even the grassy area, because now we've taken all the water, we're putting it in the underground detention, so it's not growing through the whole site and creating wet area. So.
And I'd just like to know, I know there's been some discussion about Bryant Field itself, and I understand those sympathies wanting to maintain that grass space, but the city doesn't own that land. That land to the south is owned by LPS, and the city council has no authority over LPS if they wanted to build a new school. This year, they could move on with that process without city council oversight. They own that property, and we don't have any authority there, but I'm okay with this, and I'll be supportive of the approving resolution at the following meetings. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Mr. Tormina, if I may, just a quick question. Is Bryant Field, just for clarification, is that PL right now?
It is.
So in theory, the schools would have to come before us if there was a zoning change, correct?
If there was a zoning change, yes.
Okay. All right. No, I just wanted to clarify. And then right now, I appreciate the petitioner. I appreciate Brandon for being here, answering the questions. I know we have a fair amount of people from the audience. If you guys would like to speak on this item, please make your way up. Right now, there's an approving on the regular that will be voted. Well, actually, I don't know when the next meeting that would be, because the next step would be the formal site plan. Was that coming on the 3rd?
No, this would be on the next agenda.
Okay.
You would, the vote on this would be preceded, as I said, by second reading and roll call on the zoning issues.
So for everybody out there, June 3rd, right now there is an approving on regular, which means there has to be a roll call vote. That is going to take place on June 3rd at the present. I'm going to open it up to the audience if that's okay.
Of course.
I'm going to start with Mr. Steve Johnson. Name and address for the record. I know it's kind of
Thank you,
weird.
sir. Steve Johnson at 18240 Sunset. And very quickly, I'm just to the north, just a little to the east of where that garage is. So where they're talking about dumping out into the creek down there, That's right behind my house. We already have flooding issues in that area, and now I can just imagine what it's going to be even more of this. But at the planning meeting, I said the concern I and others in the area have is that the proposed building will turn into a commercial venture. It's surrounded by residential homes. Can a condition be placed upon the waiver that the building will not be used as a commercial venture or operation and will only be used for religious purposes? Mr. Grisco from St. Mary's responded when he got up and said, I think that the current zoning ordinance as it exists today, you can't simply expand your use or change your use without going through whatever the appropriate approval process to do that. So to the extent that we have a waiver use for religious purposes, that would be the use that we have the waiver use for. So unless there's something specifically allowed as a principle for use under the zoning ordinance, we wouldn't be able to change that unilaterally. So I'm just wondering if this thing morphs into something where they're renting this place out for concerts, for their gym, to have memberships and all this, what is how is that resolved in the city if they don't do what they've told the city they're going to do? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. King.
Yeah, 33950 Coventry. A couple of things really quickly. Thanks for the shout out on the LEED certification.
I got you.
We have only one LEED certified building in this city, and Sister Mary Rose put it in there, over there at Madonna. And it's too bad this council does not have an ordinance that says everything that comes before them, every single petitioner, every single thing moving forward must have a sustainability component. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars building things, yet we're still in the 20th century. Clarification on the property. I was on the school board when this came before us. The parcel that they're building on was a separate parcel from Bryant. Bryant is a separate issue. LPS still owns that property. This section, I think, is about 13 acres. We gave it away to them. I voted no because I knew exactly what was going to happen. In the future, they were going to build a school and they were going to go into competition with LPS, which is what they are doing, because LPS is now spending millions of dollars at Dickinson Center to create an early childhood center. So keep that in mind. I think this is a done deal. And the other question I have, the existing building that's sitting there, I'm wondering what's going to happen. That storage unit is not is not an attractive building. So they're going to put millions of dollars into a beautiful building. I'm hoping that maybe they'll deal with that. And I hope they will consider a sustainability component of some kind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Christopher Martin, the great state of Michigan, and Steve is absolutely correct on this. Okay, some of the issues that he brought forth. This is going to be a money-making operation. That's all this is. As far as the water being kept underground, and then, I don't know, it gets to a certain height evidently, and it moves in a tube or whatever further north and goes into the creek. Kind of familiar with it. It's considered to be a trespass when you dump water on your neighbor's property. And so I don't know how that's being allowed. I don't know if the Wayne County had approved the underground tanks and that this other thing is an added addition to it as far as once they get to a capacity where they can't hold the water in that location. Now that water's moving north, okay, and goes into the creek. Well, what is that all about? Okay, that's not keeping the water on your own property. That would be considered a trespass. Okay, so anyway, I do believe that there's been a lot of shenanigans. Steve is absolutely correct on this. This is a done deal. This was a done deal when the current mayor was over there with a chrome-plated shovel before any discussion on rezoning, building, any blueprints were drawn up, any renderings were created. This was a slam dunk. We're going to do this. I got my shovel. I've got my camera here to take a picture of me with some guy all dressed up in some religious garb and digging a hole, groundbreaking before anything was even discussed. This was a done deal. Steve's absolutely correct. As a resident of Livonia, I own that property over there, that PL property. This is disgusting what's taking place over here. It's all about money. This isn't religion. This is about making a buck.
That's time. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Do we have anything further from the audience? Seeing none, council.
Mr. President.
Let me go to Councilwoman Budzinski, then I'll go to Mr. Donovan. Councilman Donovan.
Mr. Zelinsis, could you just walk us through the water retention and how it differentiates from an overground one option and how the water gets dispersed for us lay people?
Again, the water goes to the low point of the property, which is probably going to be the creek. So overland flows to the grass to the lowest point, not somebody that owns the property. Eventually, you're detaining the actual water and restricting the water flow into the creek instead of having it gush at once. So obviously, there's options, as Councilman Donovan said. There's the detention pond, which again attracts geese, but of course, Wayne County has standards. They have a retention pond that holds water, sediments filter out over time. Again, that's several locations. You have underground detention. It's expensive because real estate in Livonia is there's less of it, so you have to redevelop the property. And the third option is bioswales. Clarenceville School did that at their track. So, and I think St. Mary's had done some stuff out there. So there's three different options they can choose. Again, all depends on the soil conditions. But again, the goal is to detain, treat that water to be restricted out to the creek where it's eventually going to go anyway. So that's the three different areas. Again, county came in 1997 with the stormwater ordinance. They just updated it in 2000 and I believe 22 September. We adopted the ordinance. It's in their ordinance. Some are under Wayne County jurisdiction drain. Some are ours. Some are, various, like the schools under their jurisdiction, things of that nature. But again, there's various degrees of stormwater. I can't give you one answer because there's very different facets to where it goes to. And again, we work with the state, the county, and making sure that the water is treated and detained because, again, we have limited space and all that water, as you know, we're getting more storm events. It's the 100-year events. They're going every 50 years, and you see the flooding all over on the news. And our goal is to make sure that we try to detain that, prevent flooding that can occur like back in May of 2011 or August of 2014.
Are you good, Councilwoman Budzinski? Councilman Donovan.
Well, that was the most engineering explanation I've ever heard in my life. So in layman's terms, from a non-engineer, when a development happens in the community, Wayne County will come out and inspect the engineering standards. Our very, very smart local engineers will come out and inspect, and they have all sorts of really, really, really high standards. Some will argue that the government has overstepped their bounds and is doing too much. And I think that this council here tonight or in the future likes where we're at with stormwater detention and making sure that there's high thresholds and high standards to make sure that water isn't trespassing on other people's properties, because it is when you're a budding neighborhood and you have large amounts of water going into your yard, it becomes a nuisance. And I think we're actually going to improve the situation here. We're adding, as Mr. Tromina stated earlier, most likely we don't think there's any underground detention here as it is. We are going to add a lot of underground detention, and again, know that the county and the city are really going to be aggressive and making sure that their calculations are very specific and add a lot of stormwater detention here. I wanted to touch on the fact that this property, city council doesn't have oversight or authority when LPS sells their property. LPS sold a portion of this land to them, and it's no longer publicly owned. It is privately owned. St. Mary's now owns this property. The city doesn't own it. Residents don't own it. I know it's zoned PL, which is kind of deceiving because it's no longer public land. It is privately owned. The rest of Bryant Field is owned by LPS. But again, if LPS wanted to build a school there tomorrow, the city council has no oversight over LPS building something. If they want to rezone it, then they can rezone it and they have to come before council. But I'm okay with this, and I'm happy to see that it's not encroaching too far east. I wouldn't like to see any plans in the future for encroaching too far east to the abutting neighborhoods over there, and it starts to get narrowed with that creek and green space. But I think this is a very well thought out plan. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Anything further from council? Seeing none, anything further from the audience? Seeing none, right now we have an approving on regular, and that will be, as we heard from Mr. Termina, both items will be on the June 3rd.
Thank you, and I'm starting to see why you have a Red Bull at all these meetings. So I'll come with my extra large Tim Hortons next time.
Brandon, there's a cooler under here. This is my 17th.
Thank you, Council.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, so we're going to move on. Let's move on before Councilman Jolly gets back in here.
Yeah, quick.
We're going to move on to item number 11, which is a waiver petition from the Planning Commission. This is petition 2024-02-02-05, submitted by NC Designers and Contracting, requesting a waiver use approval to redevelop an existing gas station site, including construction of a new building and drive-up window for a food service operation. This is at 34901 Ann Arbor Trail. Mr. Tormina.
Thank you. I will try to go over this very quickly, but this is a redevelopment of a gas station. This is the site as it exists today. It's at the southwest corner of Ann Arbor Trail and Wayne Road. It's a relatively small site, 160 by 160, or about a half an acre in size. The development would involve removing the existing building as well as the gas pumps and replacing those in a new configuration. This is that new configuration. The building would be 1 story in height, about 3,800 square feet in size. So the building is about 50% larger than what currently exists. It would face east towards Wayne Road. There would be a single row of pumps, as you can see here. This is referred to as a dive-in configuration, something that you see more often these days with gas station redevelopments. This too would have 4 dual-sided pumps. Canopy above it would extend over all the pumps. That measures about 20 feet by 100 feet. What's unique about this property is there would be a restaurant component without indoor seating. It would have a drive-through. That drive-through, as you can see, would be the pickup window would be on the south side of the building. The stacking and the bypass would be on the west side of the building. This same petitioner owns the property to the south. This property has an access out to Ann Arbor Trail. There's actually a separate driveway. Right now there are 3 driveways between this property and this property along Ann Arbor Trail. They're going to consolidate those 3 driveways into a single driveway. So it's a definite improvement in terms of access to the site. There would also be cross-access and parking agreements between the 2 properties. This parking lot is not used often. There would still be about 7 or 8 parking spaces available on this property. Planning Commission approved this petition, liked it very much. The one caveat to that is they would like the landscaping plan to go back through a review by the planning department. They felt that there could be some improvements relative to landscaping, so that'll be reviewed by planning and inspection at a future date. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. I'm going to go to Councilman Toy.
Thank you. If I may, to Ms. Chairmina. Ms. Chairmina, is this I want to say mobile gas station? Is that a mobile or on that?
They change frequently. Is it mobile right now, Nasser?
It's a BP.
BP.
It's a BP. Okay. Are you by 10 Yen? Is that where this is? Yes. Right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a nice corner right there. And you own,
We're going to make it better.
well, it sounds like it. Yeah, yeah. So how long have you had that? A long time?
I'm not the owner, unfortunately.
You just cut
I'm
the grass and all that?
I mean, I'm from NC Design. I'm the architect designer,
Oh,
the owner
okay.
over here also.
Hi. Is it okay if they talk? Is that all right? Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, sir. I didn't want to be disrespectful to the president.
I've been there for 18 years.
18, okay.
Yep.
Do you eat at 10 Yen?
No.
No? Okay. All righty.
That's another issue. I'll come back.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be, yeah, that's okay. Now you're making me nervous.
Where do you go from here?
I don't know. I went to Bentley. I don't know. I think this is a big improvement on that site. You guys are going to do a great job, it looks like, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to ask for an approving on the regular.
All right, so we got an approving
I'm
on
going to
regular.
keep this meeting moving
I
one
hear
way
ya.
or the other.
I hear you.
Okay.
Do we got any comments? We got an approving on regular. Councilwoman Budzinski.
Just curious, will you guys have any EV charging stations?
In the plans right now, they don't show them, but there are a lot of options that are coming out to gas station owners where EV at some point may come into play. They're, making us they're making a lot of offers for us to put them in. And they're willing to put them in, but we haven't gone there yet.
We might prep for that while we're doing construction, but we're not gonna put them in.
And do you have a tenant for the restaurant component that you know what it is? Maybe
No,
even
not
if you
yet.
can't share with us. So
Not yet.
are you able to say, do you feel like it'll be more like a coffee and donut type of thing, or do you feel like it'll be like a more burgers and shakes? I mean,
I would like it to be more of a coffee donut type of thing, but I'm not 100% sure of what will go in there yet.
okay.
But I am trying my best to get a national tenant. 100%. I don't want to run food.
Council, President McCullough had to step out for just a second, so I'm just going to take the gavel. Mr. Dominic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Tormina, this gas station, since it's a new construction, it will, the ordinance requires free air at this gas station?
Correct.
Okay, and then I know there's some discussion from planning about added landscaping. First, I'd like to say this is a much-needed improvement. Pretty excited to see development taking place in southern Livonia. So I know you guys have been there a long time, and it's exciting to see that you guys are going to demo an entire building, not just put a Band-Aid on it, and build a brand-new state-of-the-art facility. So looking forward to what that looks like. The dumpster enclosure, would that be similar material as to the new material of the building?
Yes, we're gonna be putting brick and limestone and a composite material over the windows, so.
Great,
it would look,
great.
more modern, contemporary look.
And then right now, there's like guardrails to the south. Is the idea, I mean, I know, again, Mr. Tremina touched on the added landscape, and since you own that building to the south, do you have to do some sort of cross-access agreement with that building, or you're just gonna add a pass-through between that building to the south to the gas station to the north?
I mean, we're gonna go by with the approval from planning. If we need to remove whatever there, we have to do so. I mean, and put some landscaping between the two property, make it look better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just asked that because right now I know there's that guardrail, and it looks pretty beat up and rough, and I was just wondering if that was taken into
Definitely it would
consideration.
be removed. I mean, we're not gonna leave something like.
And right now, there's not a cross-access between that building and the south?
No, but there will be.
Yeah, we're gonna have.
Awesome. And then one last question, Mr. Termine. I know I actually learned this as of recently. Council, we have, we're looking at these different approaches, and I know I bring this up because we talked about it now for this item. Right now, we're proposing 3 entrances, but ultimately Wayne County and/or MDOT has that ultimate authority, and they could change this plan without council's notice, correct?
Well, Wayne County, neither Wayne County or MDOT will have to review this. Both of these roads are under the city. Wayne County's under Wayne Road. Well, it doesn't affect Wayne Road, but Ann Arbor Trail is under the city's jurisdiction. So
Okay.
no, that won't. Well, the plan you're seeing is what the city would approve. And,
That's awesome.
And ultimately.
Great, great. All right. Thank you, Mr. Termine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, do we have a motion?
Yeah.
Toya, and that's on the regular.
Yeah.
All right, do we have any comments from the audience? Seeing none? We have an approving on regular. We'll see you June 3rd for a vote.
Thank you.
We are going to move on to item number 13, which is a request to waive the formal bidding process and authorize the purchase of Axon in-car and body cameras, Taser brand energy control devices, data storage systems, and a renewal of the 5-year officer safety plan. This comes to us from the Division of the Police. Chief, it's great to see you.
Good evening, Council President McCullough. I'm excellent. How are you on this late night?
Partying it out. We're here.
Good, me too. And good evening, council members. Thank you for this. Yes, we're requesting a renewal, basically, of our relationship with Axon, which, as you know, includes many things. It's a 5-year agreement, including warranties. What we're doing with this purchase and agreement is we're upgrading end-of-life equipment, which includes a new body-worn camera, new in-car cameras, new taser, and I would note that we have not replaced our old tasers for 3 generations now. It's long overdue. But the reason we didn't was there was no real upgrade in technology in the next generation, so it just wasn't worth the purchase. This new taser is outstanding. It's much more efficient, much more accurate, and it'll absolutely create less
Can we
force.
test it on Councilman Jolly just to see if it works?
We could make arrangements to that with Councilman Jolly's permission, of course.
I'd like to see a demo.
Right here, right now.
Councilman Morgan's.
Can we make sure we're getting our money's worth, Chief?
They have one of the tasers.
Indeed.
Well, we digress.
A couple other more things of note is the 5-year agreement includes 24-hour customer service, training programs, our accessories. It includes the software upgrades. There's already infrastructure in place because this will be our 3rd agreement with Axon. And as you can tell, these are critical pieces of equipment to protect our city, protect our officers, accountability, all those good things, and it reduces use of force. They also have great partnerships with Clemis, which is, as you know, our CAD system, our dispatcher software, our jail software, our report writing software. So it's all very good synergy with that. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to go to the Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Always good to see you, Chief. If this meeting goes any longer, I might ask to be tasered, but, we'll go from that. Clearly, this is everything that our LPD needs to keep doing the great job that they do, and I'll be happy to offer an approving on consent.
You wish to approve it on consent? Councilman Jolly?
Chief, not to belabor the issue, but I remember when we got the tasers initially, and there was a little bit of uncertainty in terms of how effective they would be. This has been a wide success by every account. Is that correct?
Absolutely. In fact, I think the greatest success of the taser is that how little we use it now, how much compliance we get merely because the officers have it on their hips.
Yeah, not only, maybe I misspoke, but not only the taser, but actually the whole Axon package.
Oh,
at this point,
100%.
in regards to body cams and all this kind of stuff. Coming from a court perspective, it's amazing to see how quickly you can get to the actual truth of the matter when the interactions are recorded. I know you see that on the complaint side as well.
100%. As you know, the courts have embraced the evolution of law enforcement, the use of cameras essentially everywhere. In fact, Wayne County Prosecutor's Office now uses axonsevidence.com so that all videos coming in, and with this new contract, just a note of upgrade on that, is we can get third-party video instantly up to evidence.com without having to learn what the codecs are and all these other things that are way above my level of understanding with IT, but it's much easier, and it sends right to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, and it's a great program. And they've been a great vendor. It's been 7, 8, 9 years now, and they just do everything that we ask them whenever we have issues.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Chief. And there's no doubt the public safety is a cornerstone, and what you bring forward, any way we can help out, make sure we're getting the resources that you need.
We appreciate that, and the city does too. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. You got to approve on consent. Any questions from the audience based on that?
I got a question. You ever get to ask the chief a question?
Go to his coffee hour.
Yeah, so I was just wondering about the tasers. Those are hip-mounted tasers,
You got to
right?
address me on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
the hip-mounted tasers, is that what they are? They're hip-mounted tasers? They keep them on their hip, right?
Yes.
Because I was just curious if they do have a taser that's almost like a shotgun taser and expels the shot
I'm
about
sure
30,
the
40
chief's
feet
over
away.
there.
And do you guys ever use those? You've never seen that taser? No. Okay, I'll send you the link. Yeah, so what it does, that keeps you very far away from the person.
Cool.
You
Thank
haven't
Mr.
seen
King.
those? Okay.
All right, anything else from the audience? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item number 14, which is a request to authorize the implementation and collection of the property tax administration fee. This comes to us from the city treasurer in the amount of 1% on the school operating and Plymouth Road Development Authority tax levies. Debbie, good evening. Good to see you.
Good evening. Thank you. I am not the treasurer, but I am bringing this on behalf of the finance department and the treasurer's office. What is before you this evening is an item that would potentially include a property tax administration fee on selected millages that are levied on the tax bills. So Public Act 206 which is the General Property Tax Act, allows municipalities to collect up to 1% administration fee to cover costs related to assessing and collecting taxes. It also allows municipalities to waive any or all of that. Livonia historically has not collected this fee, instead has recovered these costs through individual tax collection agreements with the schools and Schoolcraft College. As you'll recall, at the March 8th regular meeting, City Council approved a revised agreement with Livonia Public Schools that reduced the amount being charged to Livonia Public Schools for collecting taxes on their behalf. And this resulted in lost revenue of $282,000. To offset this revenue, administration is proposing implementing a 1% administration fee to be applied only to two specific millages. Those would be the school operating millage and the Plymouth Road Development Authority millage. These millages primarily would impact non-PRE properties, so properties that are principal residences are generally not going to have these millages levied, and therefore they would not be impacted by this. This fee, as it's proposed, would recover an estimated $278,000. So it pretty much would offset the lost revenue from the new revised agreement. And if approved, this fee would be collected first on the July 24 tax bills.
Awesome, thank you. Council?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Vice President?
Thank you. Through the chair to our finance director. So when you say generally would not impact private residents, when would it? Because I guess I was under the assumption this would be commercial property only or non-homesteaded property only.
The only items, and Mr. Charmino could clarify this for me as I'm still a little new. Are there any residences that would be levied with the PRDA millage?
There are none. All residential properties were removed from the PRDA district about 15 years ago.
Okay. So
that was my caveat, because I did not have that answer.
So we don't have to worry about private
Correct.
residents. That's what I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to our finance director for being here tonight. Thanks for your presentation. So when we say there are essentially two streams of funding here, the school operating fund and the PRDA. So the PRDA are their commercial properties up and down Plymouth Road. What properties fall under the school operating fund?
So the school operating millage is, it's not the school operating millage. Hold on one moment, please.
And while it just says right here that the tax administration fee to be applied to two specific millage levies only. Specifically, it is proposed that the administration fee be applied to the school operating millage and the PRDA millage. So what properties fall underneath the school operating millage?
So those are, again, non-PRE properties, so properties that are not exempt as principal residences.
So rental properties.
Rental properties.
If you own a second home in the community.
Correct.
Those will be homes, residential homes throughout the community.
Correct.
And then that will not be commercial properties throughout the community, only commercial properties that fall underneath the PRDA.
No. So to simplify, may I? I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm also not a finance person or the treasurer. So the school operating fund is charged to any non-homesteaded property.
All commercial properties.
All commercial properties,
All rentals.
all industrial, all rentals, anything that's not homesteaded is the simplest way to put it.
and that is why Councilman Jolly is great at what he does. Thank you for the clarification. So yes, this will be on all commercial property, so, or other referred to as non-homesteaded property. So thank you to the Finance Director. I do appreciate your time, but I'm not in support of this. This is a tax on our commercial properties in our communities, no matter what you look at, how you look at it, what you call it, a fee. Government always likes to use the word generating revenue, and that's just taxing residents. I understand if we're going to do something tangible. Hey, we need to build a new city hall. We need to build a new police department. We need to fund trash. Those are tangible things that we have to charge the residents for. But just to apply a tax on commercial properties, a lot of which commercial properties in this community are struggling right now, especially coming out of COVID and vacancy rates and all that. Now we're talking about adding additional taxes on those properties in lieu of the added insurance, property insurance rates, and increase in material costs and labor costs to fix these buildings. I just think this is not a good thing to do, to add to our commercial properties to increase their taxes, whether we call it a fee or a tax is a tax. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Donovic. I'm going to go to Councilwoman Toy, then I'm going to go to Council Vice President, then Councilwoman Budzinski.
Well, I agree with my colleague that just spoke. Being a small business owner in this community for over 40-some years, I kind of feel like, it's like, thanks for being here. Thanks for paying your taxes on time. Thank you for buying those buildings, but now we're going to charge you a little bit of money to collect your taxes that I've always paid. And it bothers me. It really does. I fall in the district of the Plymouth Road Development Authority. I'm within that district. So we've been paying on that, under the PRDA as well, and trying to keep up, our end of the bargain. And we back up to Rosedale Gardens, and, I own property there. And it just, as a small business owner, that's tough. I got to meet payrolls. I employ over 15 people in my small business. And that may not seem like a lot to those of you that get a paycheck every 2 weeks, but I'm telling you something, it's getting harder and harder, and we're doing fantastic, but it gets harder and harder to do business. And the businesses are changing, as was stated with COVID. There's a lot of nuances. And, this just is, I don't know, this just hits me wrong, very, very wrong. I voted against the taxing when we did the water bills under the treasurer's office. I just think, as was stated, a fee is a fee, and the fees turn into taxes. And I appreciate Livonia Public Schools, but they get a lot of my tax money. And we all work together on that, because some of us have had children that have gone through that, and others of us haven't, and now are of the age where I think they should start refunding some of us seniors that have put a lot of time and effort into our communities. And there's some communities doing that across our country that maybe we should start looking at some creative ways of looking at taxes rather than increasing them all the time. And sorry, Deb, to come at you or our treasurer, but it just, try running a small business now, in this day and age. And it's not easy, you guys. I'm not saying it's overly difficult, because we've done it for a lot of years, got great staff, great reputation in our community. But after a while, it's hard to swallow when they keep coming at you, especially when you're paying your taxes and you're doing all the right things, improving your building, your parking lots, everything that you do. So I think we got to think of those things and be cognitive of those as we move forward in our community. But thank you for bringing this forward. I'm not really jumping up and down about it, if you can tell. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Toy.
Thank
I'm going to
you,
go
Mr. Chair.
to Councilwoman Budzinski, then the Vice President, then Councilman Morgan.
Do you know how many properties will be impacted by this?
There are about 5,700 non-PRE parcels, so that's about 12% of our total parcels.
Okay. And how many are in the PDR or PRDA? I always mix them up.
I do not have a parcel count in the PRDA in front of me.
I can tell you that the boundaries generally are described, all of the commercial properties along this, both the north and south side of Plymouth Road, and then extending north to the CSX Railroad, all of the industrial properties within that area are all within the PRDA district. How many parcels that is, I couldn't tell you.
Thank you.
Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure, and I'm never a fan of obviously having to charge more money, whether it's a fee, a tax, whatever you call it. It's hitting people's pocketbooks. But I want to make sure that this is something that would have to be renewed annually through council. This is not a one and done. This is something we'd be looking at.
The way that the resolution is presented is that it will remain in effect until revised by the, by council.
Okay, because I think this is something I'd want to see, if it were to be approved, go through with an annual. I'd like to see a sundown on it. Thank you.
Councilman Morgan.
Yes, I have a couple questions here regarding this. What would be the average raise in a tax bill for someone that's down there in the Plymouth Road corridor?
So it's a 1% fee on those specific millages.
Right, but a dollar amount.
So if those particular millages were $1,000, then it would be a $10 fee on top of that.
Okay. All right, we did have some conversation regarding this, and, you know, I mean, our infrastructure is crumbling around us, and we don't have money to do the library. We don't have money to do anything. And everybody wants to do these specific things around the city. They want to build new buildings and, you know, upgrade our infrastructure and do everything, but we have no money to do that. And I don't, a 1%, I am never for taxes. I think that we pay enough. But with that being said, Livonia has always said we have the lowest tax rate in Wayne County. And it shows, because our buildings are crumbling, our roads are a disaster, our infrastructure here in this city is a mess, and nobody wants to raise taxes. And when we ask for a small percentage, 1%, we get kickback. You know, and we're being very selective on this as far as who we're taxing, so we're not necessarily going after the residents who have been here. We're mainly looking for people to pay their dues. I mean, these big companies that are down on Plymouth Road and in the Plymouth Road corridor, they have these big trucks that go over the road and they destroy a road, and then we have to replace it. And it's on your dime. It's on the city, the taxpayer's dime. And now we're asking them to buck up another 1%. I'm going to have to think about this, but the bottom line is this doesn't seem like an overreach for us to raise this by 1%. But I really would like to see a number, and I mean, that's not what we had discussed, or the discussion that we had regarding this. It would go up $10 per thousand. But let me.
So just to clarify, this is, we're talking about different things than we would be if we were talking about a millage. So a millage is based on 1 mil per thousand of taxable value. This is based on the amount of tax. So you've already gone through applying the millages to your taxable value, and you've come down to the amount that's on your bill. It's 1% of that tax.
So it would be 1% of the school tax. Is that what you're saying? So
Correct.
Okay. All right. So, but we don't have any idea what that is. It would be based on the amount.
It varies because the parcels can range, you know, by huge amounts. So a large manufacturer will have a more significant tax bill, obviously, than a very small business may. So the impact is going to vary greatly because the values of those properties vary greatly. So I can give you overall impact, and I can certainly give you examples and pull a few parcels that are at different value points to really emphasize what that amount would be and what that impact would look like. And I'd be happy to bring those back to you.
Well, I would like to see that before I make any type of decision, because, I mean, we have, businesses down there that are worth 500,000 and some worth $1 million and more. And depending on what that school tax is, that would represent what the amount would be, correct? So, I mean, it could be
Correct. And
a very, very
just-
small amount, or it could be a very large amount. So I kind of want to know what we're getting into.
Right. And I also want to make sure that we're all clear, this would not apply to their total tax bill, just the sliver that is related to these specific millages. I would like to offer just a point of reference. The majority of communities levy this 1% on all of the tax bills. So it is not unusual for cities to levy this. I understand that doesn't mean that just because everybody else does, that Livonia should also. Livonia also has had a unique system with the schools that is different, that other communities finance through that 1% being applied. And so there are different nuances with this. And I will just offer for your thoughts and consideration as you're looking at this, the agreement that was reached with the schools on March 8th was to help the schools contain their costs. Had that agreement not been reached, there is a likelihood that the schools may have had to ask for more in millages, which would have impacted residents. So it's, when you look at it holistically, everybody needs to pay their bills, and there needs to be revenue generated to cover those costs. So this is one option for filling a gap, but certainly I'm happy to bring back any additional information that you need.
Thank you. Councilman Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that. I do think that the administration has tried to be thoughtful in their approach, albeit I disagree with it. I do think that they tried to be measured. But again, I'll just reiterate that we are now adding a tax on business owners in our community in the sum of $278,000 a year right now. And of course, every year that could fluctuate higher as property values increase and those tax rates increase. So I will not be in support of taxing our small business owners in our community with the courtesy of us taxing them. Right now, if we were to add a millage or look into adding a millage for a revolving fund for our buildings, right? Our buildings are absolutely falling apart, and to some of my colleagues' points, we have to pay for that 100%. That is a thoughtful thing. That is a tangible thing. We're asking the residents to help pitch in more to fix our buildings that are falling apart because we don't have enough, because our property tax millage is the lowest in the county for cities. I can understand, I can wrap my brain around that, but I can't wrap my brain around taxing the residents and additional tax business owners in our community and additional tax to tax them. So in lieu of timing, I'm going to offer a denying, and I think that some other colleagues will be offering some motions as well. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. We do have a denying. Anything else from my colleagues?
Well, Mr. Chair,
Councilwoman Toy.
and I'll be real brief. The easiest thing in life is to keep raising money or keep giving people more money. And, when it comes to various ways of doing things. And I find, even with employees, if they're happy, they stay. The money doesn't make a difference. But I'll tell you something, when you're in business and you're paying out these dollars, and I think as one of my colleagues just said, as time goes on, we have no guarantee if those taxes won't go up. The schools we've always supported our schools and all their millages. So, I mean, that could go up again tomorrow. And I don't care how small it is or how large it is. It's still money. A tax is a tax. And there's some groups that would say, others are very well known for, if you want to fix something, you just tax it, or you just put a fee on it. And, that's so wrong, because there's other ways to handle these things. And it's not always about money. It's about taking a lead and looking at those buildings that should have been done years back, or, whatever. I won't even go on. It just frustrates me because, after 40 years of being in business, we've done everything possibly right, been successful, and it wasn't always about increasing our prices every day. And, it's easy to do. So, I wish we would take different approaches sometimes, that's all. Thanks, Deb, for putting up with me tonight. Appreciate it. And others.
Thanks, Councilwoman Toy. I just want to toss in a couple comments. Right now for the city, we have a lot of moving pieces, and I will keep this as quick as possible. We got the Vision 21 plan. We've got, a Green Mean Master Plan. We've got buildings falling apart. There's a need. And I think, and I brought this up in different meetings, that looking at it and trying to tackle everything at a whole might be a better piece than going forward than to just piecemealing stuff like this. It's tough. I mean, anytime you have to even add a percentage, even though we have the ability to pull it back, it's tough, because that means that, we had a shortfall, and obviously there was a negotiation made out with LPS a long time ago. So I'm just throwing that out there, that this is kind of a pivotal time. You got Vision 21 going on. You got the Green Mean Master Plan. We've got infrastructure that's crumbling. So we need to really, these are going to be some hard decisions that we have before us. So that's all I have. Councilwoman Bazinski.
Yeah, I just wanted to state that, the real reality here is right now we have a budget shortfall of $282,000 for this year, correct?
Well, this will be, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So we need to address this as a city. We need to address this, and we were aware that this was going to be a hurdle that we had to face, and we can't shirk our commitments. I mean, $282,000 is a lot of money, and again, as it's been noted, is we have crumbling infrastructure. We are regularly seeing the need to remain competitive in the workforce and retaining and attracting employees. There are a lot of things at stake and a lot of hard decisions that do need to be made. And right now, we need to do what is necessary to make up the gap that we have. And we've tried to do it, or we're trying to do it in a way that doesn't affect, residents and families specifically in our community. It is not necessarily going to be easy for all of the businesses, and we understand that, but this fee is administered by most communities, almost all of them surrounding us. I don't remember the number offhand, but it's not unusual that a business would have this fee on their tax bill. And so is this put on regular? I know you did a deny. Do we need an approving? Or?
Well, right now we have a denial that I will ask if it's okay to be on regular. That means that at that meeting on the 3rd, we will have a vote.
But someone can put up
Someone
approving
can
right
put a
now
motion
too.
up before. So as long as it's on the regular, that gives an opportunity for other motions and substitute motions and different things to be had.
Okay. Jim, I'm sure will take care of it. It's late. I'm new.
No, I think, listen, like this is an issue that councils have struggled with in the past in regards to whether or not to levy some portion of this 1%. 95% plus communities in the state of Michigan do levy the 1% on the entire tax bill. It is authorized under state law, and it is something that is extremely common and normal practice for everybody to do. We find ourselves in this situation because of things that happened this year in regards to agreements that were made back in the 1990s that have fallen out of favor and have probably become, to some degree, inappropriate, because we were charging more money based on an older algorithm to the schools and some other educational authorities. So, I mean, Carrie's absolutely right. If this is not voted for, it does leave a hole in the budget, about $280,000. This is by no means a money grab for the city of Livonia. This is trying to adjust to the new reality of a partner who used to pay this, no longer being willing to pay that same amount, and us trying to save government functions in the process at their current levels. That's all this would do, is fill the gap, fill the hole of what was left by that rearrangement of those agreements. And to be honest with you, those rearrangements of those agreements, I think we negotiated well under the circumstances to preserve a large amount of that funding that used to come in, understanding that the old algorithms that came up with the older amount were probably out of whack. I don't like any kind of tax increase or tax fee or anything like this. Nobody does, right? But this is a circumstance where this has been drawn specifically narrow in regards to trying to affect as little of the portion of taxpayer in Livonia as possible. The biggest problem we have as a community is we're struggling to pay things, right? And this is just something else that we gotta figure out how to do, right? As our finance director, I know you're intimately involved with the numbers. You don't have them on the top of your head. Can you provide to the council a couple key numbers? The lowest impacted taxpayer, what are they paying? The highest impacted taxpayer, what are they paying? And what is the average across all those affected? Those are probably the three most important numbers as we consider what we're doing here to actually understand the scope. As I understood this earlier on, off the top of my head, and I don't have a great memory when it comes to numbers, my understanding was that on the low end, it was going to be about $20 a year. On the high end, it was going to be about $600 a year. That was the spectrum I understood. Please educate us before the next meeting.
I'll be happy to do that. I will
Thank you.
pull those numbers together, and if there's any other items that occurs to anyone, please, I'm more than happy to provide that with you. I know I wasn't here when the discussion took place in March, but I do think that it has been mentioned that these two items are linked. The action that was taken on March 8th and this request. This is not just a general request because, you know, we want to do something completely unrelated. They are linked. And as was mentioned, this was what we came up with to minimize that impact, fill that gap without having to impact services or anything else along the way. So I will be happy to bring back some additional data to you, and I would be happy to have more discussion at that time.
Thank you, Deb. Councilman Morgan, are you?
Yeah, actually, I was gonna ask the same thing of you to bring next time you clear exactly what we're looking at, exactly what the dollar amount would be. Okay,
I'll be happy to do that.
all right, thank you.
Councilwoman Toy?
Thank you, and I get that. But it reminds me of, just so you know, because now it's going all over this country, even in the presidential race, and I don't want to bring politics into it, but we're all politicians. But all I'm going to say is, okay, your cable bill just went up, this just went up, your electric bill just went up. It's only $5, it's only $10. That new lease on that car, that just went up. Your gasoline just went up. I mean, how many hits can people take is my point. And now you're talking business. And if it's not going to affect your residents, yes, it is. Because even if it's 1%, even if it's another $200 I pay, or anyone else that owns a business within this structure, it's still going to reflect what I have to raise my price or bury it somewhere Whether I don't take as much pay that week or I don't buy this or that, we got to start being a little bit more fiscally responsible when it comes to that. Okay? That's, I guess, what I'm saying. We can say, oh, it's only this much, and when you bring back those numbers, I'm sure they're going to be low, but it's everything else that keeps going up. And that's what people are struggling with these days. You know, I mean, food costs, all that kind of stuff. And it's nobody's fault. It's just the way it is happening. So when we talk about numbers and we talk about that kind of thing, consider the bigger circles. Some of us don't get cost of living every year or every 6 months or whatever. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Some people pay for parking when they go to work. When I was in Lansing, we paid for parking. You guys don't pay for parking here, thank God. But I'm just saying, it's all those little costs that start eating up people's wallets. That's all. And so we got to be cognizant of that as we move forward in our city. And I understand the negotiation, and I respect that. And I will probably end up, unfortunately, voting for this darn thing. But you know, and I know I've gone on. But I just want to point out to you my feelings on this when you're talking about this little nitpick game that's going on overall. That's all. Sorry, I'm Italian, or at least half. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman
Thank
Toy.
you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so right now, we do have a denying on the regular.
Yeah.
Council,
Do we need an approving? On the,
we do not.
I mean, we don't need, but I'm just saying,
You can offer it.
You can offer,
can I?
you can offer.
Or
a
is it
motion.
on regular? I'm just, because this is a study and it's
If you
pretty
feel
late.
better, you can
it's-
make a motion. Go ahead.
Any motion can be made on the day of the regular.
It can be.
And any motion can be made on the day of the study.
It's weird, trust me. It's, until.
Wait, guys, it's
until
my
it's-
first all-nighter.
Until it's the voting meeting.
My bedtime is 2
All right, so with that, council, all right, seeing no one else, audience. I figure I got a couple of these gentlemen.
To make a long meeting longer, you
Welcome
gotta
to
cut your
government.
agenda in half.
Just come on up, too. Let's-
Who put this
No,
agenda together?
okay. March 8th, I pointed out, when you made the agreement with LPS, you're blowing $1 million hole in the budget, and that's what this is about. 280, you made that deal with the LPS to get the property for the senior center. LPS was getting a fair deal, what they were paying for us to collect their taxes, but somebody thought, oh no, we gotta save them $1 million. And that, I know they had you over the barrel, you needed the property for the senior center. That's what this is all about, so I just wanted to put it in plain English.
Thank you, Mr. King. All right, any more audience comments? Seeing none, we have a denying on the regular. I am going to swiftly move to item number 15, which is a request to renew software maintenance agreement with sole source provider. This comes to us from our IS department with Esri. This is for the city's GIS for a period of 1 year. Bring it on, man.
Good evening. This is an annual renewal of our geographic information system software, software maintenance. This system provides mapping functionality to several city departments and along with several mapping applications on the city website. Total cost is $23,470, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to offer an approving for consent.
You have an approving on consent.
Thank you.
Good
Support.
evening. And you even got Toys support on that, too. Didn't even need it.
Didn't even need it.
All right, anything from the audience? All right, we're moving on to item number 16, which is award a bid from Livonia Housing Commission for the replacement of 54 30-gallon hot water heaters at Silver Village from budgeted funds. I love this. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Livonia Housing Commission would like the City Council to approve a bid in the amount of $65,718 from budgeted funds to replace 54 30-gallon hot water heaters at Silver Village. That is only half the property. Silver Village has 108 units, so the balance will be put in next year's budget.
I love it.
Approving.
Councilman Morgan.
Support for the consent.
All right. Anything from the audience? Mr. King, come on, it's just hot water heaters.
Yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. All right. Who's the math teacher here?
I'm here.
Okay. Do the math. That's $1,217 for a lock and var 30-gallon hot water heater. You can go to Home Depot, pick up one for $400, so I guess they're charging you $800 to install each one. I've heard a lot of talk about we have no money, we have no money, we have no money. Here's why you have no money. You're putting in old water heaters. This is 18th century technology. What about tankless hot water heaters like I have at my house? I've had for 12 years, tankless. I've saved over $1,500 in energy costs, more than paid for the unit. But no, we're going to put an old-fashioned. There also is now a heat pump water heater, which saves over $300 a year in energy use. Can we please move into the 21st century?
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry, my tablet is on the turned upside down like this. This is how the packet was uploaded. Thank you for the item this evening. When I was looking at the bids, I noticed that it includes a permit section. Is it normal for the city to charge ourselves for permit fees?
So these funds do not come from the general fund. They come specifically from the Silver Village Fund, which is an independent operation. So yes, we do pay the city of Livonia permit fees, which we want to do because we want to make sure we have an extra set of eyes with these contractors to make sure they do things correctly.
Yeah, no, I absolutely appreciate the sentiment there, and I get wanting to treat them separately in a sense, right? This is an apartment complex owned by a property management company in essence. It is ultimately property tax dollars. It's our money, and as we heard tonight, we're talking about property taxes this evening, and pretty soon we'll be talking about water rates here shortly. So if you have an agenda item, get ready to stay even longer. That's government for you. But this is, we're $6,800, $3,600 in just permit fees, and you just take that into consideration. But I understand what you're getting at. My next question was about, are these 80%, 90% hot water tanks? I know we keep talking about efficiency. Do you know what versions these are?
Now, Silver Village was built back in 1978. We have a very limited compartment where you have the furnace and the hot water tank. So to try to put a larger hot water tank in there, it's just not going to fit.
Sure.
So it's sprinkled area. And so we're dealing with some constraints of size. So that's why we are going from the 30-gallon, because they really redesigned the 40 gallons that are not going to fit in that compartment. So to restructure that whole furnace room to accommodate the 40 gallons just wasn't going to work. So these fit the size of the unit. And again, for a single person occupancy, 30 gallons is enough.
Was there a motion offer, Mr. President?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Councilwoman Budzinski.
Were tankless water heaters explored as an option? Was a bid requested for a tankless option?
The cost for a tankless hot water heater for this development for 108 apartments would really be a budget buster. Would also be we'd have to put a lot of that on the residents because this is a self-supporting operation. So the residents pay rent, and then the rent supports the operations of the facility. No general fund money goes into the operation of Silver Village. So tankless hot water heaters are probably 4 times the cost of what we would be putting in today.
But
again,
was it explored? My question is simply that and I understand if it's not the most economical option here, but was it assumed that it'd be more expensive, or was it actively investigated as an option?
It was actively investigated. We have some experience with tankless hot water heaters. We did examine those, and it would be not economically efficient for the Housing Commission to do that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Anything further from council? We've been approving on consent. Anything further from the audience? Seeing none? Well, Mr. King, you already spoke on this. All right, so we're going to move on to item number 18, which is award of bid from the Livonia Housing Commission for the replacement of 81 refrigerators at McNamara Towers from budgeted funds. Floor is yours.
I think next one is, no, that's not correct. Next one is the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I got ahead. So scratch that. We're going to go to item 17, which is an award of bid from the Livonia Housing Commission for the replacement of 4 90-gallon hot water heaters at McNamara Towers, Building 1 and 2 from budgeted funds.
Correct. So these are the McNamara Towers number 1 and number 2, built in 1968 and 1972 respectively. Over the years, we periodically changed the domestic hot water systems to provide hot water to the residential units. There are 2 in McNamara Towers number 1, 2 in McNamara Towers number 2. These are oversized commercial hot water heaters that provide the hot water for the residents. And so the low bid was submitted in the amount of $51,000. 6 bids were received. And so we asked council to award a contract to the Detroit Boiler Company.
Thank you. Council? Councilman Donovan?
Mr. President, I'll offer approving. Ironically enough, I just received a bid for my day job for a commercial hot water tank, 120 gallon. So looking at your pricing, it's not so bad actually. It's money that we need to spend. I'll offer an approving consent. There's no objection from my colleagues.
Thank you. Audience? Mr. King?
Okay. I build houses. I built 10 houses, over $3 million in improvements in my neighborhood. How many of you have put in a lock-and-var water heater like I have? Have you put in a lock-and-var? Okay. Is it a gas water heater? They didn't tell you. Is it gas? Is it electric? What is it? Let's do the math. 4 90-gallon lock-and-var, that's $12,750 for an individual. You guys can go on Google. This is outrageous. A tankless hot water heater would fit right underneath the podium, Jim. It's tiny. It's this
Mr.
big.
King, right here.
It hangs on
Steve,
the wall.
direct it to me.
You guys are at the mercy of these people that come here, yet you've never done any of this. You've never put in a water heater like I have, 10 of them. I live with the tankless hot water. Come to my house. It frustrates me. I see meeting after meeting. People come up. You spend millions of dollars, but you don't know what... These people don't know what they're talking about, so you're getting bad information. You can't make good decisions with bad information.
Mr. President,
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Donovan?
I'd just like to note that I have 100% confidence in Mr. Ingles and your department. I think you guys do a fabulous job, and I think you guys get bids from public companies as a governing body is supposed to do, getting bids. This isn't a private company. We don't just get to spend public taxpayer dollar as we see fit. They have to go out to bid, and we're taking a bid of the lowest, most qualified bidder. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. One thing that I just want to touch base on is, and I don't have the spec in front of me, do you know, are there power vents on these hot water heaters?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a history in hot water heaters, and I will say, with the power vent, you're going to be saving close to 96% efficiency. You're only losing 4. And here's the other thing. Now, this is it, because this is what and listen, I worked at Habitat for Humanity, and we did some tankless. And the problem is when you're in the basement, it sometimes can take a little bit to get to that. I'm just saying it, but listen, I'll send you those work orders from all the seniors going, hey, but hey, I hear you. But with the power vent, with it being 96% efficient, that's sustainable, I don't see any issues. So right now, we do have an approving on consent. Do we have anything further from council? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, we are going to move on to item number 19, which is an award of bid from the Livonia, hang on.
18.
I keep scratching it out. I'm sorry, I'm getting there. Award of bid from the Livonia Housing Commission for the replacement of 81 refrigerators at McNamara Towers.
Yes, the McNamara Towers number 2 has 81 apartments. Last time we replaced the refrigerators was probably 14 years ago. We received 7 bids for the replacement of those 81 refrigerators delivered to the Livonia Housing Commission. The price was $42,687 to Great Lakes Supply, and we asked the council to approve the purchase of these refrigerators. The Livonia Housing Commission will be installing those ourselves.
Council?
Approving.
We have an approving. Is that all? Is that okay on consent?
Yes, sir.
We've been proven on consent. Now we're going to move on to item number, actually, anything from the audience? All right, moving on quick. Item number 19 is award of bid from the Livonia Housing Commission for the replacement of carpet at McNamara Towers, Building 2 from budgeted funds.
Yes, the Housing Commission took bids for the replacement of all of the carpeting in McNamara Towers number 2, which is a 5-story high-rise, all the elevator lobbies, all the seating areas, all the offices, and the low bid was submitted by Solar Contract Carpet in the amount of $102,946.80. This would be for carpeting and cove base and removal of all of the existing carpeting, including any repairs when the carpeting, the old carpeting was removed. This is from budgeted funds.
Thank you, Council. Councilman Morgan?
Yeah, I'll offer an approving on consent.
Thank you. Anything further from council? Seeing none. Anything from the audience? Seeing none. Moving on to item number 20, which is an award of bid from the Department of Parks and Recreation for custodial services at the Jackie Kirk Ski Recreation Center from budgeted funds. Good evening. Mr. Davis.
Is it still evening? Thank you, Council President McCullough. Ted Davis representing Parks and Recreation. I think it is still evening.
I got a hockey game still. I got a hockey game in a few minutes. So
It feels like something.
Start first hour.
We're really here asking for council's help with this. We've been having a problem at the rec center for the last 3 years, and it comes down in a great deal to numbers. There's just simply not enough staff. We're running into this, and cleanliness has become an issue. We're asking to award custodial services to the rec center to an outside company, and we don't take that lightly. Don Rorath, myself, other members of DPW, Finance Department, we've been looking for solutions for this for quite some time, and we've come up, unfortunately, it is simply a numbers game, and we're asking that council award a contract to LGC Global facility maintenance for custodial services for the remainder of 24, 25, 26, and 27. This will do twofold. Hopefully, it will improve the cleanliness of the rec center. And then the second part is existing staff are not losing their positions. They're simply going to be rerouted to other facilities. It will give facility maintenance, our internal custodians, a fighting chance of maintaining our other city buildings adequately, which is a problem. Whether you're the library, you're the police department, you're city hall, all of these places are screaming for attention, and this is simply an opportunity for those facilities to be serviced properly as well. That's really what we're asking here. And again, this has been an issue for a while, and it's not something we take lightly. I'm happy to answer any questions council might have on this proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I'm going to go to council before then going. If you guys would like to speak on this item, just line up here and we'll get right to you guys. I'm going to go to Councilwoman Toy.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, I think I'm glad you collaborated with some great minds out there as well. I just want to say, I think this is what I mean about creativity.
Mm-hmm.
This is great. I like the thought that we can do this, but yet we don't displace those folks, that they still are employed by our city.
Yes,
and
no one is losing
all
their
that
job.
kind of thing. So I'm going to offer an approving, and I commend you guys for getting together and over coffee, I'm sure, and making sure that this city is well.
Strong coffee right now.
Strong coffee, yes, sir.
Yes.
For the cleanliness of the rec center, because with the wellness center coming out in there too, we want to make sure we got top of the line stuff going on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Toy. I'm going to go to Councilwoman Budzinski.
So I have a lot of things, unfortunately. But first and foremost, so for the over $500,000, which the rec center is normally paying to DPW,
Yes.
how is DPW making up for that losses? Because I'll say that this proposal was reviewed at the library in years past because services weren't being rendered at that building, and the library commission felt that we could pull our funds towards DPW to hire an independent service, and we're told that DPW couldn't afford the loss of revenue.
Mm-hmm. In theory, what we're paying DPW is simply a transfer to cover wages of custodial services that are done at the rec center. So if no custodial services are provided at the rec center, that money shouldn't be needed in DPW's budget.
Okay.
Mr. President, can the finance department confirm this?
We do have
I know, since Deb's still here.
No good deed.
Yes, that is correct. So we have positions that are budgeted in the DPW budget. Those services are needed for parks. So within the budget, we have a transfer recorded, which is basically parks pays DPW for the use of those staff members' time. So if we don't have the staff members on the DPW side, we're not spending the money there. So if we reduce that transfer on both sides, we're reducing the salaries on the DPW because they're already vacant. They're not being used. There will be leftover money in the budget. On the park side, it's not being used to repay the DPW. Instead, it'll be used to contract the services because we know we can pay an outside contractor. The funds are there.
And I don't know if either of you guys would know this. How many vacancies are there in DPW for this kind of work specifically? Because these are mostly for janitorial services for the rec center. I'd imagine those would be full-time, permanent, not seasonal.
Good evening, Council. Don Roraff, DPW. We have not had these positions in the custodial staff in the 14 years that I've been here filled more than once or twice completely. I would say in those couple of times that they have been filled completely, we were probably only running at full capacity for no more than a couple weeks at a time. We have continual turnover in these positions. We continually are struggling to try through civil service, different means, going out, doing job fairs, doing anything and everything that we possibly can to try to recruit employees to come in and fill these positions. It's absolutely been an ongoing situation since I started in this city 14 years ago, and it's not gotten any better. It's gotten way worse. So to answer your question directly, how many do we have? I could tell you that when I left work, we might have had 7 vacancies, but by now we might have 9. I mean, that's seriously kind of the turnover that we're dealing with on a weekly basis, and it's continual. We have, through civil service, an open policy. When people apply, we bring them in temporarily until we can even get a test to get them hired. We don't even make people wait when they apply to come in and work for us in the custodial ranks. I'm not sure if that answered your question, but that's what's going on.
I mean, I guess I'm just trying to understand, how the city is unable to provide this service, but a private entity can. Our current DPW staff is unionized, correct?
Yes.
And the contract employees would not be. Is that accurate as well?
I'd have to defer to Mr.
do we-
Davis on
do
that.
we
I'm not
know?
part of the bid that went out.
Are you good for a moment?
Go.
All right, so if I may, just because I do this, so I manage facilities, and so when I worked for the city of Novi, we had a contracted service. And I can tell you that it was probably one of the worst bids I've ever went through in my life, because you would get someone that came in and they would tell you that they're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then once you sign the contract and sign that 1 year, you got completely different from it. So, I mean, I hope you guys, I know you probably did the due diligence, but, I mean, we've had it in the sense that I've had firms come in and have actors, I can't make this up, as salespeople. And in my current job, we have unionized custodial staff. My question is this, and I think this is, I actually think this is an overall problem that's reaching around the city is, I mean, what's the starting rate right now at a custodian?
I believe it's $17 an hour, $17.10, do I want to say? $17.23.
Okay, and with that, I mean, right now, I mean, I hate to say that, but $17.50 an hour, at least your neighbor to the west has no issues hiring at that point. I'll be completely honest. $17.50 an hour, we bumped up to 17. I had 50 plus applications. That's all I'm saying is, I just want to be on record just saying that. I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Jolly, and then I'm going to go to the audience.
If I can say, Councilman McCullough, this is not an issue we've just experienced for 6 months or even a year, right? This has been, I would say this has been an acute shortage for 3 years now. And we certainly wish, we are open for solutions. I mean, it's easy to identify a problem, right? It's difficult to propose solutions. And that's what we have before you. I mean, we've discussed this internally. This is simply a pilot program. Do I think this is the end-all, be-all? By no means. What I will say is this contractor that we're recommending, LGC Global Facility Management, we felt the best apples-to-apples reference they provided us was Sterling Heights. And Sterling Heights spoke very highly of them. Sterling Heights, they clean their municipal buildings. They clean their rec center.
Every one of them, or was it a piece?
Pardon?
Every one of the buildings, or was it a piece? Because a lot of them will say, hey, we just do the jail cells.
So this was a piece, because they don't clean like the outdoor parks.
Sure.
Those are a different company, but they clean their city hall and their rec center, which we thought was the best apples-to-apples comparison. It was a good reference. I mean, so you're asking me, do I know? No more than I know if any contractor that we award a bid to is actually going to perform. It is my sincerest hope, and I'm going off of past performance from other people, that we think this will work.
The issue that, and I'm just going to I'll speak bluntly, is, this last week, I think that everybody on council got complaints about the grass. And we hear, hey, we just don't have the money to do it. Everywhere we look, we don't have money to do it. We don't have the resources. We don't have the staff. And it's just at some point, like everybody here, COVID's done, but I wish that I could use that excuse at times. Not excuse, but I can't. You got to find a way to get the job done. And I understand you're bringing this forward. I'm going to go to the audience, but at the same time, we're having the ones to do it, and we're not getting the answers that are, in my opinion, acceptable. You get 5 to 6 people in 3 days calling, and there's no solution. I still haven't had any information to get back. I'm not going to digress on that. I'm going to go to Councilman Jolly.
Mr. President. And I'll go to you. Thank you.
Okay, well, I appreciate you guys and Don and Ted being here. I understand that there's a need to provide services at the rec center. I absolutely understand that. And my questions are not understanding the dynamic that's at play here. My questions are probably more pointed towards Mr. Roraff. Don, the current custodial folks that would be affected, are they represented by Local 192?
Yes.
Have you, as the director of this area, have you had an opportunity to talk to the leadership of 192?
Yes, multiple times over the years.
Can you give us just some context in regards to that conversation so we can, is this something that they are okay with? Is this something that they are objecting to? It's important for us to understand that picture. My concern is here that there's a need. The need is probably not being met currently because of staffing concerns. But when we talk about privatizing government jobs and unionized government jobs that are, they're different because we negotiate contracts through a collective bargaining process with them. It's a slippery slope to do any of this, and that concerns me greatly. So I would love your perspective in regards to 192's leadership's response to this. That would go a ways towards helping me understand.
Sure. And I'd be happy to expand on that. We do have the leadership here from 192 if you'd like to hear that from their mouth directly. But the sit-down meetings is a general oversight of what we talked about is when this discussion with Parks and Rec came up probably a year and a half ago, maybe even more than that, maybe 2 years, of how do we fix this problem. And the rec center and the police department are probably two of the buildings within the city that are the most difficult to staff. You have to have male and female, multiple working at the rec center at all time, obviously for, all the above reasons of locker rooms and things of that nature. So in these discussions, when we started having these, were how do we fix this problem? I understand where Ted's coming from. He has to have the cleaning. Sitting down and talking with the union, when this came up, And Ted said that this was gonna go out and he was gonna get a, a bid on it to see where, where the numbers came back and what we did. I sat down and I said, here, this is what's going on. This is what we know at this point. No one will be losing their jobs. They'll be moved from the rec center and populate other buildings where we're currently running with one when we should probably have two, et cetera, et cetera. If there's night stuff that's happening in different buildings, we'll be able to shift and make all of that happen as well. But again, if the union wants to, comment on our conversations, they definitely did happen. The only thing that was brought to me was that they were concerned that people were going to lose their jobs. And that is not the case at this point. We definitely are just going to move them to different buildings. We're going to try to staff these buildings the way that they should be. I don't think it's a big secret by any means that these buildings are just cleaned to a bare minimum. And that's because that's all we can do. And it's not an excuse. It is exactly what it is. You don't have the bodies to do it. You have call-ins. You have everything that happens. We don't have a bench. We don't have other employees that we can pull from somewhere else to cover and make sure that those things happen.
I appreciate the answer, and I'll look forward to hearing from the 192 leadership. Just because I don't plan on circling back here, the reference for the bidded contractor, did they give you a length of time that they had a history working for Sterling Heights? Is it something that has been going on for a period of years, or?
Yeah, I'd honestly, Councilman Jolly, have to go back, but it was at least a couple of years.
Okay. Thank you both.
Councilman Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Roraff, Mr. Davis, thank you to be here. Thank you to the custodial staff that is here as well. Looking at the contract, it says the remainder of 24, and then this contract would extend till 27. Are there performance clauses if this company does do a bad job? Are there kind of exit clauses? So let's just say, I know Mr. Davis referenced kind of a pilot program, and could we get out of this contract at the end of 26 without prepayment?
We can terminate for cause at any time.
But we can't terminate just because we determine that this isn't working for us, and we just want
For
to
cause, we absolutely can terminate.
for cause. Okay, and then as we progress into the future of redeveloping the rec center and the new senior wellness center, I suspect that will be constructed and done before the end of this contract. Would this have to be renegotiated at that time to encompass that new area, or how would that work? Or is that a little bit too far out to think about?
No, it's not. That's a good question. It's not too far out to think about. We just don't know the cleaning capabilities, what we're going to need, right, with the new senior wellness center being attached. I think it would depend a great deal on how it is working out at that point in time. We'll have approximately, assuming this is approved, we'll have approximately 14, 15 months until the new senior wellness center is fully operational and open to the public. So I think we'd certainly, as we get closer to that, we'd either look at a renegotiation or putting it out to bid, or again, even going out, depending on staffing levels, having city custodial staff clean that facility.
And the plan is to not, I know you mentioned it, but I'd like to just reiterate, the plan is to not fire any custodial service staff, anything like that. This is just to focus on this one building and essentially reallocate the existing staff to other buildings in the community.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. I'm going to go, Councilman Morgan.
Yeah, a couple quick questions. With these, if this was to occur, these people that are coming into our building, do they have any security checks or any background checks or anything like that? Because milling through City Hall and
Well, they're not going to be in City Hall, but they'll be at the rec center. All these employees are background checked. Yes.
all right, okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to go to the audience. Thank you guys for being so patient. If you'd like to, the floor is going to be yours. Name and address for the record. And
yes, my name is Lindsay Swakowski, and I am newly elected to the local 192 as president. I'm currently not a resident, but I was born and raised in the city of Livonia. And like Don was saying, that we had discussions over the last, I want to say, year and a half or so. and trying to come up with solutions to this. And it is saddened that it is coming to this point, especially since the custodial staff has been cleaning and maintaining that building since it's opened, and they've been 192 members. And though they will be put into other city buildings, what they're talking about is that as the custodians move on to other opportunities or retire, those positions won't be filled. That's where the budget's gonna come from. So they're not eliminating or letting go employees, but eventually it will lessen our numbers and lessen our positions. So that is our concern, and the importance of the custodial staff. I mean, you have custodial staff in this building that's been custodians for 10, 20 years, taking care of not only the rec center, but other city buildings. And the importance of it, it is also one of our recruitment grounds for other departments in DPW. I don't know if you guys know that, but nearly half of DPW started off as custodians. So the people that are in parks, roads, meters, water, sewer, that's where we all started from, in myself included. So, I mean, in the last year, I want to say the 4 people that were hired as public worker 1s, 3 of them were custodial staff, which I know also contributes to the problem because, once again, that's 3 spots that we now have to fill. But I think it's a good problem to have in some solutions, but this day and age, it is getting harder and harder to staff and fill the custodials. But I think pay is a big issue, but that is something that usually is addressed during negotiations. But I am curious, the pay, you said it was like $500,000 for our staff to clean yearly. Is it comparable, or how much are we paying the other company to do so?
What I can do is, if you grab a card right there and just, you know what, we'll find out. I'll just make sure you get some packet information because it's all public information.
Okay.
And we'll make sure you guys get the packet.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for spending the evening with us. I know a lot of you from terrorizing the rec center, so I apologize. Before I go back to the audience, this is something I can tell you. Being the president, I can't really put motions, but I will not be supporting it. Do we have any other audience communication? Right now, we do have an approving on regular, which means this will be a vote on June 3rd. And then I'll come back to council. Did you want to say something, sir?
Sure, why not?
Why not?
Wasn't planning on it, but my name's Thomas Stadler, longtime Livonia resident for 42 years. I've been a city employee for 23 of these years. I started out as a custodian April 30th, 2001. I left the community center 2009-ish and became a DPW employee on the other side of the rec center, I guess you could say. It just kind of saddens me to even think of this even coming up for bid. I know a lot of great people, my wife being one of them, that I've met throughout the years as custodians. And yeah, I know some of the employees right now are on FMLA, which you know, nobody wants to be on, but some people have to be on it. Which, you know, my heart goes out to those people that can't come in every day because they have a sick child or something to that nature. But that's about it. Thank you guys all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Council, I'm going to go to Councilmember Budzinski.
Yes. So one, I do want to say, Ted, I appreciate the work that you put into this and that you want to make sure that the rec center, which is a, you know, shining star in our community, is maintained as such, and that our paying residents and members have a clean and well-maintained facility to go to. Like, I appreciate those concerns and that this is a possible solution. I am frustrated, though, that we we as taxpayers are also paying for DPW to maintain our public-owned facilities, and this is one of them. Our library is one of them. Our city hall is one of them. We are constantly talking about an inability to maintain our buildings and having staffing issues. And it was said that you said, or my colleague said, need is everywhere. And you said that it's difficult to propose solutions. I really need the administration to propose some solutions, lasting, long-term solutions that addresses this issue and the other issues that we are seeing across the city. Whether, I don't know if it's a request that the administration do a report or putting this into committee. We're seeing this in every meeting. We're seeing this across the board, and it is just incredibly frustrating to me that our solution is to privatize city services when we have a department that is supposed to be able to handle it. And if they can't, we need to figure out why, and we need to figure a path forward.
Thank you. Anything else from council? Mr. Davis?
I did just want to reiterate, the cost on this is for the fiscal year, for the 1 year for 2024 is $1,000 difference between what we're currently transferring to DPW and what this contract will be.
Thank you. Anything else from council? Seeing none? Anything else from the audience? Seeing none? As I said before, there is an approving on regular, but it has to be a vote. So June 3rd, this will be the time. And if you would like to voice your concerns or comments, be there at that meeting. With that, I'm going to move on to item number 21. Request for consideration of a proposed ordinance amendment. This comes to us from the Department of Parks and Recreation to amend Chapter 8.24-050, Keeping Wild Animals and Birds and Bees, in order to allow introducing beehives into park property for educational purposes. Mr. Davis.
Good morning, Council President. Ted Davis, representing Parks and Recreation. We're home stretching it here, so we are requesting a change to the ordinance to allow bees to be kept at specifically the Greenmead Historical Park. Our goal has been on that site, and Council President McCullough, you're well aware of that, is to bring that back to a working farm or start introducing some farm-type programs, and this is one small area we can do that. It's not a leap to think that there are bees currently on the site. There were bees that were on the site. Beekeeping was well established in this area, and maybe we'll get lucky and make some meat out of it, and we can have a good time.
Mr. President, I'd like to offer an enthusiastic approving for consent.
Amen.
You have it approved on consent. Anything further from council?
World needs bees.
Seeing none?
Buzz, buzz.
Anything from the audience? Seeing none, we're moving on.
Thank you
We're
very much.
going to move on to item number 22, which is a request to adjust water and sewer consumption rates, industrial surcharges rate, and industrial waste control charge. This comes to us from the Public Works Division to become effective July 1st, 2024.
Mr. President?
Yes.
In lieu of time, and I've done some research on this item is actually currently in the Capital Outlay Committee, and it's something that the community deals with often, or rather the council administration deals with. So I'd like to offer this item for the Capital Outlay and Infrastructure Committee. I am the chairman of that committee, and I will schedule a meeting immediately. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Donovic. Council, any other questions or motions? Seeing none, we are moving that to committee for time. Any questions from the residents? Audience communication? Seeing none. We are going to move on to item number 23, which is an award of contract. This comes to us from the Engineering Division for the 2024 water main replacement project. This is Westfield Avenue and Harrison Road from the unexpected fund balance of the Water and Sewer Fund to be reimbursed by the proceeds of the Drinking Water Revolving Fund balance bonds. Take us home.
Well, after hearing the roads are falling apart, the infrastructure is falling apart, you saved the best for last as far as we're actually going to fix the water mains, whatever. So just let you know, plans were done in-house by the engineering department. They were out for bids. We actually received 4 bids for this project, in which it involves Harrison between Joy and Plymouth, and also the other location was Westfield Avenue from Merriman to Middlebelt.
Council.
Mr. President, I would like to offer an approving for consent.
You have an approving for consent. See, Mr. Zelensik knows the game. 24, oh, audience. All right, seeing none?
Nobody's left.
Moving on to the last item, 24, proposed amendment to the Livonia Code of Ordinances as amended. This comes to us from the Department of Law. Title II, Chapter 23, Department of Information Systems, in order to remove the role of the Director of Finance in the responsibility management for the Director of, the Director of Information Systems.
Mr. President,
Yeah,
I'm going to offer an approving for this. Information
something.
systems, information technology is an ever increasingly important role within our society and organizations. I think it's appropriate that it reports to the mayor. Thank you.
Perfect. Do we have any other comments from council? Seeing none. Audience? Seeing none?
Mr. President, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. What's the catchphrase? Got to get something.
No.
Catchphrase.
See, the vice president did it, though. That's cool.
Good night at 11:36.
Motion for adjournment.